Who's coming with me? It's a short shot. We the source now. Taking over the game, put it on padlock. With a better roster, six to play the lobster. Let them niggas hate, but revenge will never stop us. It's a short shot. We the source now. Taking over the game, put it on padlock. With a better roster, six to play the lobster. Let them niggas hate, but revenge will never stop us. Kill the cancer, you can call me a sick assassin. Cut the chains, you can call me LeBron James. Make a decision, but you never have me in derision. Changing the vision, but more them that cause division. For real, never in submission like I need permission. Niggas steady telling lies like a politician. Nigga need to cool it down, but we the new edition. Yes, yeah, the name is the source. Check the reinvention. For real, you think we not prepared for the fallout? Watch us stack this information. Yo, we back. Source in the building. Right? Get your mind right. Shout out to the SUC. Right? Back at you with another one. Back at you with another one, man. This is what we doing. Yo, peace to the family. First and foremost, man, I want to give all praise and honor to the Abinah Yahweh Bashim Mashiach Yahushua, man. For those that don't know, my name is Jeremiah. Please say the Yah. I am the Source Legacy Champion, right? What does that mean? I held this belt for a year with no losses. I want to see you Negroes reproduce that, right? Because this is what we're doing here, man. This is the Source Debate League. Well, we're about sources. We're about raising the scholastic ability of our people, man, right? Bringing you powerful information, powerful discussions, right? On a scholastic level. This is what we're doing here at the Source, man, right? We're killing all rumors, right? We're killing all rhetoric kings. This is a Source Scholastic Debate League, man, right? Source up or shut up, man, right? And we have another powerful debate. The Source Debate League champion, the Scholastic Bully, Jashube, is back in action, right? I want to say peace to the panel. Also got my brother, James Cassell, the Scholastic Killmonger, in the building. Talk to us, family.
Oh, I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to the family, you know what I'm saying? I'm amped up for another debate for the Source Debate League, you know what I'm saying? Well, we source up or shut up, man. I'm just real excited. I know my brother, the champ, the man who defeated me, Jashube, is ready to put a hurting on this brother. And I know this other brother is coming up here into this league, ready to get real amp and show that he can take down our champ. So I'm just ready to see it. See who can prove when Israel began. Was it before the 8th century or not?
That's right, man. That's right. Is it true? Is it not? Is there evidence to support these claims? You got naysayers, brothers like Chris Harris, hating on the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Talk about we didn't existed in the 7th century. You know what I'm saying? We gonna find out tonight, right? We're gonna find out tonight, man. We also got the middleweight champion in the building, representing the heretic brand of the Source. Talk to us, King Seth. You're on mute, Doc.
Yeah, man, what's cranking, man? Y'all already know what it is, man. Middleweight champion of the house. Just coming off another win on Israel Doctrine. Y'all so-called OG. So put some respect on my name, you dig? You know what I'm saying? So stuff click, man. I'm horse skilled, man. I ain't gonna be talking today. But you know what it is, y'all. Peace out.
All right, man. All right. We also got the Arsenio Hall of the Source, right? Craig in the building. Talk to us, family. You're on mute, Doc.
You talking to me?
Nah, Ratchet Craig.
This Ratchet Craig. Oh shit. Oh
We
yeah,
all we
this
can hear
Ratchet
you now.
Craig, man. I'm in the building. I'm in the building, man. I'm trying to come and see this bout. I'm coming to see this bout to see my brother Jashube, you know what I'm saying, the heavyweight champion of the Source Debate League. I'm Mr. Unstoppable going against my guy DjSeeanski, man. You know what I'm saying? He got that work. So I'm looking to see if he can give it to Jashube tonight. That's all. I want to see this. So that was up.
That's right, man. That's right, man. So I want to, without further ado, I want to take this opportunity to introduce the judges. First one up, our brother MVP Chris Harris in the building, man. Talk to us, family. You're on mute,
You
Doc.
on mute, Chris.
I was excited about this debate when I first saw that flag go up. You know what I'm saying? This one right here. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? I'm a judge. First of all, I'm a judges champion, MVP, and the champion over there at SVDL. You don't need much. I don't need much attention or anything like that. I'm just here to judge a debate fairly. And remember, we're here to judge a debate, or I'm here to judge a debate based on the information that is provided by both debaters. I'm not here to judge based on my own personal opinion. Once again, thank you to the source. Thank you to Yerim Yah. Think he live like me, win a champion, run a league, think he good like me, wear his hat to the side, wear glasses just like me. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, like I said, I'm really excited. I'm like, y'all don't know, I'm really excited for this debate because I get to see my man, the Scholastic Bully, bring his little bully tactics to his to the scholarship. I know my man DjSeeanski personally. We've had deliberations on dates and exegesis of history, of antiquity and things like that. I mean, I'm really excited for this debate. So I feel like however this turn out, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Just start the damn debate already. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this debate. You know, I feel like if he lose while I feel like I done lost. Shit, let's get it, baby. I'm ready for this.
All right, man. We also got our next judge, G Consciousness, Big Hamite in the building. Talk to us, family.
Oh man, what's going on with you guys? What's going on with the family out there? Grace and peace, man. Big Hamite in the building. As the brother Chris said, tonight, man, look, you better persuade me. Otherwise, bring that information, because if you're not bringing them sources of that information, then I can't be persuaded off to your view. So that's what I'm looking at tonight. Are you hitting those points concerning the topic? You know what I'm saying? Stay on topic tonight. Stay on topic. That's key. You know what I'm saying? Present your information well, And so that's what I'm looking for tonight, you know what I'm saying? And with that being said, all praise to the Most High God, you know what I'm saying? Grace and peace to everybody that came out tonight. Man, I'm telling you, brothers got on the Christopher Harris got on the track suit, you know what I'm saying? That brother got on that, you know what I'm saying? You got the brother, Yermi Yah, you know what I'm saying? This brother got on the glass. You brothers are suited up tonight, man. I'm gonna have to get fresh the next time I judge, man. I'm gonna have to get about this truck, man. Grace and peace, man.
Yo, man. Last and final judge, last but not least, a respected brother, the blue collar scholar in the building. Right? Hold on, let me bring him back. 1 second here, let me bring him back. Blue collar scholar in the building. Talk to us, Hot. He read.
Shit, what it do, baby? Hey, man, it's gonna be good, man. I think it's gonna go down. I don't know the brother Sean, DjSeeanski. I don't know him that well, so you know what I'm saying. I don't know what he gonna bring, but yeah, I know for him to step up to this level of competition, man. I know he gonna be bringing something. My boy Jashube motherfucking do be. Oh, excuse me. That my boy Jashube goddamn do. I know what he do. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So. Hey, it's gonna be good, man. Just make sure everybody tune in, get your popcorn, get your drink. You know what I'm saying? Get ready because it's finna go down.
About to go down, man. Real talk. Real talk. All right. So I see Craig in the building. right? So without further ado, man, Salak, man, where's okay, I guess we lost you, Shaw. Shout out to the tanks on the ground, man. All right, man. So we got the Michael Buffer of the Source, right, in the building. I'm about to turn it over to him. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to hear mine.
Floor is yours.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special one tonight. Our champion, the legendary and savage, Scholastic Hulk, versus the one and only and legendary man who's been there in the epic fall in the 2000s, the legendary Sean DJ Hebrew Killer takes the stage tonight to battle the legendary Jashube the Bully for this special on the Source.
Yo. All right, man. So it's about to go down, right? So I believe DjSeeanski is up first, right? Are you ready, brother?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready to go.
Floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to start off real simple with the topic. The Hebrew culture begins in the 7th century BCE, according to the archaeological strata. Strata simply means the layers of excavation. That's it. And the layers of excavation will show a chronology anywhere you dig up. And what the topic is the Hebrew culture. First thing you need is a language. That does not start until the 600s BCE. Though the story says the culture starts with Moses, according to the Bible. Moses starts the culture. I'm saying there is no proof in the archaeological strata of that, and the proof suggests that the culture starts in the 600s of BCE, on down through the Hellenistic period, which also includes the Persian period. That the writings are newer, though they say the culture itself is older. So all we're going to do is see if the culture exists outside of the 7th century BCE, according to the stratification of what was excavated in the Near East, to prove if the culture started with Moses or started post-exilic after what we would consider to be the story of Daniel and Babylonian captivity. I'm saying it's after that period of time and not before it. It's a newly formed culture then. So I'm going to start the slides off. The first thing I'm going to do, because I'm primarily citing from Professor Gunnar Heisen. He's from Germany, and he's the foremost expert in this field, to whereas a story is just a story. History can only be proved to be correct from the archaeology and how it's layered in the ground. That tells the truth. The story is just a story. So what I'm going to really highlight here is my first blockade is the belief in Israel's biblical chronology results in the deletion of Israel's history, and there's no Exodus. So I'm going to go to the next slide. This is a chart. What it's showing on the left is there is 890 years without strata, which means archaeology in the ground in Jerusalem during the 1060 years from 1200 BC to 140 BC. Meaning if you try to say Israel in Hebrew culture is older than the 7th century, you're already going to run yourself into a brick wall, because there's no archaeology in Jerusalem itself to support that from 1200 to 140 BCE. There are erroneous textbook dates versus actually what is found in the ground. So I'm just going to read through it real quick, starting on the left. From 143 to 330, there's 190 years without residential quarters. From the Persian period of 330 to 550, there's still 220 years without residential quarters. From the Judges and Kings, which goes from 720 back to 1200 BCE, zero from Saul via David to Solomon Ahaz. Building formation from the Bible, not covered by the fines. Nothing for Hebrews under Yeshai and David fighting Jebus people in Jerusalem at the time of Tyrese Amalek. No trace of the temples built in 957 and 835 BC. There are no historical sources from Egypt, Asia Minor, and Mesopotamia for the years from 1200 to 900, both from 2017. Proto-Aeolic capitals, Mazar 2017, are assigned to David's 1000 BCE, resembles the capitals from the 7th and 6th century of the Medes, were Indo-Aryan horse breeders from 600 BCE, brought down by Cyrus the Armenian. What this is saying is the Israelite culture, the Hebrew culture itself, is taking other people's culture and that actually exists and saying it's theirs. So when you go to the right column with the erroneous dates from 70 AD to 142, under Antiochus Epiphanes, 175 to 164, Jerusalem temple is raided and paganized. From the high urban period from 550 to 720, building explosion. 12,000 inhabitants through the biblical records on this activity, extremely scarce, if not absent. The stratum is dated after Sennacherib from 704 to 681, who besieged Hezekiah, from the first monotheistic king. Temple destructions in 705 85 BC. All this chart is saying, because you can go back to it, is there is no archaeology to prove that there was any strata in Jerusalem when you back out the 7th century. There is nothing there to prove that these people existed and the culture existed at that time. So what it ends up being is, believe it or not, the Greek historian sources from the 9th and 8th century BCE are more accurate when it comes to the story of Nimrod from the archaeology than the Bible story and the cuneiform sources which come from Berosus. The Greek historian's story says the first king would be Ninos, the king of the Assyrians. The story of Ninos is mainly a Greek invention, is what this author is saying. The Greeks invented that. But the Bible is saying what the Greek historians are talking about actually happened 2 more millennia before the Greek historians say it happened. From the archaeology, the Greeks are going to end up being correct. There's no stratification from 2200 to 600 BCE in any individual site to prove even that any culture goes back to the 3rd millennium BCE. I'm going to keep going forward. What this is saying right here, and this is the conclusion to his paper, I'm just showing it real quick, that in order for powerful empires and civilizations that appear in modern textbook to be accepted as genuine, there must be evidence of their existence in the archaeological strata. I'm in paragraph 2. Paragraph 2. If empires without such layers, then there's 2 possibilities. If you can't find the empires in the strata, there's 2 possibilities. 1, they should just disappear from the textbooks. 2, the existence of these empires must be affirmed by using archaeological layers that are currently assigned to other empires, thus causing the later empires to disappear. I'm saying Israel, the Hebrew culture, is not in the layered earth that was excavated any damn where. It's like a ghost culture that has literary sources. That's not evidence. A literary source from the 1st millennium, from the 7th century moving forward, is not proof of anything. This is the book I'm primarily going to use. Pillars of the Past, Volume 3 by Charles Jananthal. And this book right here is dealing with Egypt and Palestine. I know the publisher of the book. I can get these books. And in the book, I'm just going to briefly show that chapter 1 is Egypt, Egyptian prehistory, chronology, climate, and catastrophism, the chronology of the Nubian 25th dynasty, the identity and chronology of the peoples of the sea. I'm going to highlight the Hyksos, chapter 4, Chapter 7, Part 2, Palestine and the Biblical Chronology, and Chapter 8, the Alphabet and Hebrew Chronology, because it's all laid out in this book. It's pretty simple, and the sources are right there.
Are you scrolling through your slides? Because it hasn't moved.
Yeah, I am scrolling through them. You can't see them scroll? Oh, snap. I'm already on slide like number 4. I'm just using my arrows. You see it now?
No, it hasn't moved. It's just on that one Hebrew culture.
Whoa.
Yeah, blow your screen up. Make it full size.
I can see the screen blown up myself. I'm gonna hit escape. Now I'm back to regular.
Yeah, change.
What is it right
now? You can see it now.
Now we can see you moving.
Okay, hold on. I went through this slide here. Can you see it now?
Yep, you good now.
What I did was, I'll do it again real quick. I'll go back up. The first, I'm going to use a paper. That's Gunnar Heisen. He's the foremost authority right now that is saying you can have a historical story all you want. We have to use the archaeology and how it's layered to determine if your story is true or not. So he's writing these papers and he's taking them to the top of the food chain. He's not no little chump dude. He spent years on this stuff, man. This is just a dude that's really coming hard with it. All right, next slide is showing the actual, what I just said, that there's nothing in the stratigraphy or the strata in Jerusalem from 1200 BC to 140 BC that validate there even being a culture. I'm just giving y'all basically a handicap saying we have some literary sources, so I'll at least say the culture started in the 7th century, which you're dated to. The Greek historians, again, have the story of Nimrod, and they've dated it as an Assyrian king from the 9th to 8th century. The Bible says it's in the late 3rd millennium, and so do the cuneiform sources, which is Berosus, say that goes way back. So now you have a culture, the Bible, it's actually cuneiform sources in Egypt that claim they're from at least the 3rd millennium BCE. So there's 3 of them, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the biblical story, though the Greeks are saying everything is starting actually a little bit more recent, but we're going to keep the Hebrew culture exactly where it is. Now, this is small now, so I'm having a hard time seeing it. Okay, this is the last page I rate. The logical basis for this proposal is for powerful empires and civilizations appear in modern textbook to be accepted as genuine, there must be evidence of their existence in archaeological strata. If the empires are without such layers, there's 2 possibilities. One, these empires should disappear from the page of modern textbooks. The existence of these empires must be affirmed by using archaeological layers that are currently assigned to other empires, thus causing the latter empires to disappear. So Pillars of the Past is the book I'm using, and I'm using the chapters dealing specifically with the topic matter. This slide got cut off a little bit, but I'm saying absolutely that, and this is coming from A History of Israel, Bright, the book is from the year 2000. There's linguistic evidence regarding the time Samuel wrote about the King Solomon. In the main, it shows conclusively that the text was written before, and that is 7th century, got cut off. I have no problem with that. When Babylon exiled the population of Judah, orthography or spelling is the key index. Before the exile, for the most part, Israelite orthography is defective. Few vowels except the ends of words. So all this is saying right here, and we have evidence in the Dead Sea Scrolls, is that you have a beginning of a language at that time, at least before the exile, right around in that period of time. It means that the plain spellings with internal vowel letters are demonstrated late. In the case of biblical books, the spelling may have been updated by late copyists. I'm saying they're all copyists. But defective spellings without the consonant used as vowels inside words indicate a pre-exilic date. The concentration of such defective spellings in the books of Samuel is extraordinary. The old spellings point to a starting point before the 6th century BCE for the transmission of the Samuel text. I have no problem with the Samuel text coming from that point in time, but there's nothing before that. That's when the writings actually start. And it's saying basically in the next paragraph, and this is still from Julius Wellhausen, his book is called Prolegomena to the History of Israel. You have the Yahwists, what they call the J version. The Elohists was the E version. The Deuteronomists is the D version, and you have priestly version sources, which are post-exilic, which is why we have fragments of the text. I don't have a problem with that. This is saying the same thing, that you have the text being written in transmissions. J, the United Monarchy under David and Solomon. Judah, the Davidic dynasty. E, with the divided monarchy of the state of Israel after Solomon. And D, with the reforms of of Josiah. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Okay, what this page is saying right here, and I'm just showing because I have the sources. You really don't have anything substantial about the history of Israel. It's at the bottom, to the 4th or 5th centuries, man. 400s through 300s BCE. So we're already 1,000 years past Moses, at least, depending on how you're dating Moses. I've heard 1800 BC, I've heard 1500 BCE. But this stuff is coming 1,000 years later, where you have actually some writers talking about this culture later. This right here is saying, of the Hapagraphia, by far the larger portion of the Hebrew canon is demonstratively post-exilic, and no part demonstratively older than the exile. Daniel comes far down as the Maccabean Wars. Esther is perhaps even later, or the prophetical literature, a very appropriate fraction, is later than the fall of the Hebrew kingdom and the associated historical books. Date in the form which we now possess them from a period subsequent to the year 560 BCE. That's when we really start to have, and I don't have an argument with that. I'll take the Dead Sea Scrolls back as that far if you'd like me to, but it's not going back into antiquity. Now it's going to get a little bit more deep. The most important corpus of the ancient Near East literature for the study of the Bible is the group of texts discovered in northern Syria, part of Ugarit. The documents date to the Amarna age, circa 1500 BCE, during the time which the city of Ugarit emerged as a major cosmopolitan center. The texts are written by a stylus on clay, like cuneiform, in the fashion of the Mesopotamian scribes. I'm going to skip down. Among the texts found at Ugarit were copies of the ABCs taught in the Ugaritic schools, their fixed order of the letters in the form which our own English ABC derives. Now, there's a problem right there. In the Ugaritic abecedary, it's called, you have the ABCs. The Hebrew alphabet doesn't even come up to another 700 to 800 years later. You can't show the Hebrew language being used for trade, law, religious, or other purposes. You can't. And it mainly comes from Phoenician, not even Ugaritic, but they're
1 minute remaining. 1 minute remaining.
Yeah, I'm going to skip down to the next slide because I don't know how long these were going to go. Now, we know that the Bible was written in Persian and Hellenistic times, as pointed out by the minimalists. And we're further told that the Ugaritic alphabet was employed from about 1550 BC to 1200, based on the established chronology. That means there's a 600-year break between the writings of Ugarit and those of the Hebrew Bible. It is here, once again, that we encounter the problem of the language change over time. Phrases, idioms, and other forms written as oral expression do not remain fixed for 600 long period of time. The next slide, and I'll get to the next round because I'm going to stop it there. You can see how they copied it straight into the Bible, but there's still a 600-year gap from the Ugaritic language to the Hebrew language, which suggests that the timeline is closer together. Because right now, we don't talk like we talked in the 80s. We don't talk like we talked in the 60s, let alone in 2020, we don't talk like the people talking in the 1400s. We don't have catchphrases. We don't have idioms that exist from the time of the Renaissance, essentially in Europe. We don't talk like that today. So we're talking about language development. I'm saying they cherry-picked it and they took the language from Phoenician, which come from Ugaritic, and started copying their text into the holy books, which are still written at that period of time. I'm going to pass the mic. I'll wait for the next round.
All right. Man. So I guess the Hebrew culture is just a bunch of plagiarism.
Copy, as I call them. Yep.
So it's clear that the brother DjSeeanski did not come to play no games. Yo, James Cassell, man, what's your thoughts?
Go DJ, good at my DJ. That boy say he went from the 12th century down to the 9th century in one swoop. Saying no evidence there. Say he got a little bit of literary evidence, but he don't see no evidence of no language before the exile. And he don't see no substantial evidence of no outside cultures talking about him before the 4th century BC. He says, so Jashube got something to show. That's all I got to say. Jashube got to show something.
Hey, it's go time, man. You ready, champ?
Man, are y'all serious? Let's do this, man. Scholastic bully. Share my screen. Let me get it up. This guy came in here and preached to y'all. All right, entire screen. All right, you should see my screen now.
Yes, sir.
All right, terrible job. And I'm going to debunk your whole first round with one slide, DJ Sean. I'm going to really dismantle everything you just said with one slide. Because I want the people to understand this. He spent a whole round saying that there was no evidence in the stratum layers. There's no evidence, no archaeological, anthropological evidence of Hebrews or Israelites before the 7th century BCE. Why you do that to yourself, Sean? First slide. The king list debunks his entire first round. The king list. Because the Hebrew Bible names 7 North Israelite kings who reigned during this time span. Once the biblical information on the length of their reigns is coordinated with extra biblical sources, which is the Kirk inscription, the Black Obelisk, and the inscriptions of Charlemagne's Shana Manzar. That's where you can find this information. These extra biblical sources from the mid-9th century. Their range can be fixed as at Jeroboam 931 to 909 BCE, Nadab 909 to 908 BCE, Baasha 908 to 885 BCE, and Eli 885 to 884 BCE, and on all the way to Omri. We have extra biblical sources proving that these people existed, proving that a monarch existed during these times, because you have kings that ruled over the polity. So what is this brother talking about? One slide gets rid of you around. Try again, Sean. The source is the Forgotten Kingdom, the archaeology and history of Northern Kingdom history. Israel Finkelstein is the author, and page number 64 is where you can find this information. So Israel Finkelstein is a what? An archaeologist, a very renowned archaeologist, and even he has came to the conclusion that this is accurate and right, and that these Israelites, this Hebrew culture, this cultural identity existed prior to the 7th century BC. So your first round over with, it's gone. Bye. Now this divine culture, according to the British anthropologist Edward Taylor, culture is that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. I'm going to show that for the Hebrew culture existed prior to the 7th century BCE tonight. And the source is culture, definitions, functions, characteristics, elements of culture. And you can get that on iedunote.com. Because I wanted to define it, because I didn't want to play with words. All right, so we're also going to dive into personal names and how they reveal culture. The study of personal names is referred to as anthroponymy, and anthroponymy is related to genealogy, sociology, and anthropology. So what that means, Sean, is that if I can show you the names, and I can show you the personal names and the theophoric nature of the names, I can also show improved culture. I can also show improved genealogy. You're saying these people don't exist, but we have their names being inscribed and attributed to kings. How do these people don't exist and they got kings? Come on, man. The subject of names have attracted ethnologists, philologists, and ordinary people in accordance with different theories as well as these disciplines. A personal name is a symbolized version of identity in attachment by words. So I can show you a cultural identity through names, right? As names have evolved out of the collective memory and cultural memory, they embody the changes that occurred in the social structure and culture. And the source is qualitative versus quantitative research. Sunyale, page number 30. So let's move on. I'm also going to deal with the Iron Age a lot. So I want my audience to know, and I want the judges to know what the Iron Age period consists of. The Iron Age, depending on the region, the Bronze Age, Iron Age transition in the Near East, that's what we're dealing with, is usually dated to the 1200 to 1000 BC. The source is the innovation and adoption of iron in ancient Near East by Nathaniel. It was published February 21st, 2019. Springerlink.com is where you can find the article. So I just want to bring it out there to establish what the Iron Age period is in the Near East, which is well before the 7th century. Now, let's deal with culture. Let's deal with cultural practices that we can find through stratum, like the brother said. You understand that they do digs over there, and they dig up these things, and they can determine what culture was there. So can we determine a Hebrew culture prior to the 7th century BCE? We already did it with the King's List. Your first round was trash, and I already discarded it. That's okay. That's okay, people. I will be waste management for you guys today, and I will remove the trash. I will be Captain Planet today and remove the trash from the community. That'll be my job today, ladies and gentlemen. So, avoidance of pig consumption, evidence of Hebrew culture. It is already widely known and well established that the avoidance of pig meat is an important cultural and even ethnic trait in the Iron Age Israel. So what is this brother talking about that we don't find any evidence in the stratum? When they dig these places up in these known Israelite sites, they notice avoidance of pig meat. Why? Because of Leviticus 11 and 7 and Deuteronomy 14, the dietary laws that were prescribed to the children of Israel. We can clearly see through these archaeological digs, through the research done by the archaeologists, that these people avoided pork. We can see that that culture existed in the Iron Age. And remember, I want my judges and audiences to know the Iron Age is 1200 to 1000 BCE. So from the 13th century to the 11th century BCE. That gives me about what? Almost 700, 600 years head start. And that puts us way ahead of the title, the premise, which says, can we show evidence of Hebrew culture prior to the 7th century BCE? Yes, we can. The answer is emphatically yes. It says the significance of pork consumption was identified during the 1980s once the faunal remains, which animal remains, of various Iron Age 1 sites and a pattern in the distribution of pork consumption and avoidance were observed. The analysis clearly showed that sites that can be regarded as Israelite did not yield pig bones, Sean. So we got material evidence showing that these people did not consume pig, which shows you that that's a cultural practice that they held during that time. It says, while Philistine sites had them in abundance, the near consensus regarding the significance of this trait allows us to use it as a good starting point. So this is great evidence of Israelites and Hebrews practicing their culture in the land during the Iron Age 1 period. And the source is Israel's ethnogenesis, settlement, interaction, expansion, and resistance by Abraham Foss, page number 55 and 56. It gets worse from here. It gets a lot worse. You know, the cultural identity confirmed by the lack of pig bones in the locality, the identity of the inhabitants of Khirbet Kiafa. The people who lived at Khirbet Kiafa could have considered themselves the same people of the highlands of the east. And in this case, they may be seen as Judites and Israelites. The excavators called attention to the lack of pig bones as indicating an Israelite identity of the inhabitants. So, Sean, can you please tell the people what were you talking about when there's no stratum? There's no stratigraphic data that reflects on the Israelite culture or Hebrew culture prior to the 7th century. You're not bamboozling anybody up here, man. I'm seasoned. You can't do that. You're not doing that. I told you I'm Captain Planet. I'm going to remove the trash from this community. Every day I get up, that's my goal. You understand me? I know you hear me talking to you. And the source is the Forbidden Kingdom, the archaeology and the history of Northern Israel by Israel Finkelstein. Page number 55. I'm using Israel Finkelstein because he's a renowned archaeologist that works in that land and does digs for years. Everyone knows who Israel Finkelstein is in the archaeology community. All right. So we're going to move on. The four-room houses are a Hebrew Israelite concept which shows architectural culture. Many studies have attempted to identify the people who use this house type. Shiloh, whose seminal works are still widely referred to today, and Shiloh means they did a dig. That would mean they have stratigraphic data on who these people are. Your first round's done. What were you talking about? Anyway, let's keep reading the source. It concludes on the basis of the house distribution in space and time that this was an Israelite house. This is Hebrew culture. The four-room house is clearly Hebrew culture according to the archaeologists and paleontologists. So what is this brother talking about, man? Did you come up here and try to pull a fast one? Bro, I don't know what you thought was going to happen. But anyway, according to him, in the light of the connection between the distribution of this type and the borders of the Israelite settlement, and in light of its period of use and architectural characteristics, it would seem that the use of the four-room house is an original Israelite concept. Say it with me, Sean. An original Israelite concept. And we find it in the stratigraphic data, by the way. That's where we find it at. So the source is Israel's ethnogenesis, settlement, interaction, expansion, and resistance. Abraham Foss, page number 101 and 103. How am I doing on time, Jeremiah? Where am I at on the time?
You're at 10:13.
That's how much time that I've used? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
All right. Next slide. Iron Age 1 terracotta, the 7-spouted oil lamp. This kind of lamp is found sporadically in the ruins of Canaanite shrines of the Iron Age and in occasionally Bronze Age precursors. Such seven-spouted lamps set in cylindrical stands are what would be expected on archaeological evidence in a Jerusalem shrine of the Iron II period, which is the period of Solomon's temple. And the source for that was there a seven-branch lampstand in Solomon's temple by Carol L. Myers, page number 47 through 57. Now, let's deal with these seven-spouted lamps. Seven-spouted lamps is direct evidence of Hebrew culture. And we got dates over here, so we know what we're doing over here, right? Examples from Israel of seven-spouted lamps written without pedestals were found at Tanekh in 1300 BC, Dothan 1200 BC, Gezer 1550 BC, Ain Shems 900 BC, Megiddo 780 to 650 BC, Lachish 710 BC, and Meribah at 600 BC. I could really just stop my round here. All of these findings is showing that there was a material culture, a Hebrew culture existing from the Iron Age 1 and 2 period, which would be 1200 to 1000 BC to E. That's what I established at first, right? We can see this information. We can see the seven-spotted lamps, which were ritual items. This is a sign of cultural identity, cultural practice, right? It says the relatively few examples of this lampstand may imply that they were used only for special purposes, such as in cultic ceremonies. The fine example of Tel Dan in association with the Bama in the cultic area seems to indicate a ritual use. A ritual use. So this is an indicator of culture. And we find this in these Israelite areas. You know, when they do the digs. Remember you said they didn't do any digs? And they find material culture in the stratigraphic layers. Anyway, evidence of the Kingdom of Israel preservation of cultural memory. It says Professor Gershon Galil of the University of Haifa, who deciphered the inscription, it indicates that the Kingdom of Israel already existed in the 10th century BCE, and that at least some of the biblical texts were written hundreds of years before the dates presented in current research. This is what you don't understand. And this is from the source Most Ancient Hebrew Biblical Inscription Deciphered, University of Haifa, and you can get this on physics.org. January 7, 2010 is when it was published. So this goes against everything you said. They didn't have a language. Yes, they did. You understand they have ostracons and papyri shards with nothing but the Hebrew language? Bula with nothing but the Hebrew language? We're going to get into it. So what is this brother talking about? Did I waste my time tonight? Jeremiah, let me know. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, man. Distinct Hebrew culture in the 10th century Ostrakon. Source is Most Ancient Hebrew Biblical Inscription Deciphered. I just quoted this. Professor Galil, deciphering of the ancient writing, testifies to it being Hebrew. Son, you said the Hebrew language wasn't even existing at this time. So how do we find artifacts with the language in which you said wouldn't exist during this period? You got to explain that. It says, based on the use of the verbs particular to the Hebrew language and content specific to Hebrew culture and not adopted by any other cultures in the region. This text is a social statement relating to slaves, widows, and orphans. We get to the point. It says the content itself was also unfamiliar to all cultures in the region besides the Hebrew society. The Hebrew society, in the words right here, it says the particular words in the words that appear in the text, such as almanah, widow, are specific to Hebrew and are written differently in other local languages. This is how we know this is an attestation to Hebrew, the Hebrew language, which reflects culture, because language deals with culture. And we see this in the 10th century. We have the Astrakhan. People wrote on pottery shards because that was the cheapest form of writing medium at that time. So we can clearly see that, Sean, you're wrong. Pack up your bags. I don't know if you want to keep doing this. Scholastic bully, 7 gang.
Time. Woo! Hold up, gang. Hold up, gang. Now, First of all, I gotta get me one of them. I gotta get me one of them lampstands, man. I gotta go to one of them craft stores, and I'm gonna get me a lamp, and I'm gonna get it designed just like that, so I can be closer to antiquity. Right? So now we have the King's List, right? We have the 4-room house settings, right? We have a multitude of other things that was brought out in that round. I am very interested in seeing how this brother is going to rebut or even address these things, right? James Castell, man, what's your thoughts,
Man, fire, earth, wind, water, heart. That boy brought it all, didn't he? That boy said he ain't even leave out of the Bronze Age, Iron Age transcendent facts and material evidence. So I'm real anxious to see what the brother gonna come back with in the next round to refute some of this stuff that Jashube brought, because that was kind of heavy hitting towards that premise there. I mean, that's like one round with everything in it, you know?
Yeah, man. So, hey, look, Sean, are you ready?
Can I say something?
We can't hear you, Art. Sean, you there? It looked like the brother may be having some technical difficulties, right? So while we're waiting for the brother, man, I want to make this announcement about the tag team tournament. The tag team tournament is underway. Contact anybody in the Source Debate League. If you got the testicular fortitude to jump in the ring, right? We're doing a 2-man tag team tournament, right? And we're putting the sign-up list out, Most High will, tomorrow. All right. So if you want to be a part of that, you got a team, right? Let us know, and we'll get you locked in. Sean, are you there? You're on mute, brother. I see you there. You're on mute. All right, there you go. Talk to us. We can't hear you, brother.
He got hit with that shadow punch.
Hold up,
he a little dazed right now. A little dazed. You know what I'm saying? Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston. He got hit with that shadow punch.
Hold up, man. We'll give his brother an opportunity to he maybe have some technical difficulties over there, man. Your PowerPoint is still here. Your icon is still here, but we can't hear you, brother. If you are speaking, you may need to drop out and come back in.
What we doing with first round knockouts?
Yerem,
Yo.
Hey, I gotta tell Jashube, I don't like it when debaters make me go pull out my books and shit. I don't like that. That's what I'm talking about. I want to hear some shit that's gonna make me go look like, wait a minute, oh shit. I love that shit.
Man, keep it clean, man. It's a family show, brother.
I'm sorry. I get excited when I hear good scholarship. I'm sorry. What you want me to do? Right. I'm about as far as it get. My bad. Hey, I don't like it when people make me go to the book. I don't want to study when I'm judging the dang on debate.
Chris stupid.
This might be a first round knockout. This might be a first round knockout.
This one. There's some daggers being thrown on both sides here. You know what I mean?
This is a good debate. This is a good debate.
Hey, y'all gonna quit jumping on my debate. DJ, man.
Sean,
DJ, you need to go ahead and go out and come back in.
Y'all know hey, D-Ray, y'all know I'm the Captain Planet. Y'all know I'm the Captain Planet of the debate.
But I gotta Sean had me on my seat. I'm like, ooh, this boy bringing some heat. Then the shoe bounced back like Juvenile. I'm like, hold on, man. I'm like, oh, these boys going at this. This is what I'm talking about. This is the type of debate I can respect. Both cats bringing information. Neither one of these cats is bringing rhetoric. Ain't nobody just You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody just talking, giving you a vagina monologue.
Nah, brother,
Ain't nobody doing
back
none of that.
completely out the room and then come back in, and you should be able to hear you.
Right.
Don't make me pull out books, man. I don't like having to go get them books, Jashube. I keep telling you, man. I don't like doing that when I'm trying to judge a dang on debate. I'm gonna go ahead and cross out a couple of daggers that I was gonna use later on down the line. Let's just go put that on now. But no, on the real, I just want to say this to the audience: both sides are doing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
This is the best part of the debate coming up, where you see the rebuttal and the refutation of the information.
Right.
Now we're gonna see who got the best rhetoric and the best scholarship. So Jashube, you definitely living up to your name. I'm impressed. My man DjSeeanski, this ain't no pseudo shit going on right now. It's offense and defense being played here in the offensive rounds, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
Hey,
No
Sean,
doubt, I'm enjoying it.
You're not.
Hey, man, first round knockout. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Now he's back, man, but you're unmuted now. If you're speaking, man, we can't hear you, bro.
What's probably
If you got a
happening?
headset on, check your mic.
No, what's probably happened with the StreamYard, you have to accept the settings. And when you jump into the StreamYard, it says allow mic.
Yeah, no,
and,
he did that. He did that because he's in. And
okay.
It's not alerting me that he hasn't done that. So he did that. So it got to be something going on with his microphone. If you got a mic on, man, you might want to unplug the mic. Unplug your headset, man, because it's giving you problems.
DJ Sean, on the bottom of the screen, it says cam and mic, right? Click that and then click audio to the left. And then select your mic. You might not have your mic selected. So on the bottom of the screen where it says cam/mic with the little gear symbol, click that symbol, and then
You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, there you go.
Damn, man, that shit's crazy. Wow, I just did that. Now I'm back. So let's see. All right, hold on. Now, okay, y'all can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was compelling what you just said, but I'm gonna eventually argue what stratum you're talking about. And it sounds great that there's
hold up, Sean. I want to
pig
get
bones.
the time and
I'm
everything.
just gonna pick up.
Hold up.
Yeah, go ahead.
And everything. So go ahead and pull up your PowerPoint so we can have that ready.
Let me see. Hold on. Because I couldn't even see what he was saying. Can you see my screen now? Can you see it?
Not yet.
All right, hold up.
Yeah, man. Because listen, brother, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm waiting for this. I got to hear this, brother.
This is why I hate being a judge, because both these brothers are gonna cuss me out no matter
Okay,
what.
now can you see the screen now? Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now again,
yeah.
That sounded compelling. I couldn't see what he was showing though. I was having some problems. I couldn't see what he was showing. It sounds great. The Finkelstein is matching the Israelite records again that was written in the first millennium to some antiquity. I would say it's falsified, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to say it's falsified, but let me just keep on going. Let me keep rocking where I was, because our PowerPoints are just what they are. So I'm going to keep going from where I left off in the last round. I'm going to set my time clock. Y'all can still hear me, right?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, I'm going to start. So where I left off, I'm starting right now. Where I left off was saying that we know that the Bible was written in Persian and Hellenistic times, as pointing out by the minimalists. And we are further told that Ugaritic alphabet was employed about 1500 to 1200 BC. Based on the established chronology. That means there's a 600-year break between the writings of Ugarit and the Hebrew Bible, but there's phrases and idioms that pop up in the Bible that's written in Persian and Hellenistic times. So I'm going to keep on going to slide 15. Gordon and Brensberg echo this statement, the closeness between the two alphabet literatures, that Ugarit is the greatest library discovery from antiquity since the decipherment of the Egyptian hieroglyphics. Mesopotamian cuneiform is generally recognized. This is the Ugaritic text. Now consider how the goddess Anath of Ugarit decks herself out to meet the emissaries of Baal. She draws some water and bathes, sky dew of the fatness of earth, spray of the rider of the clouds, dew that the heavens do shed, spray that the spray that is shed by the stars. They say what the words sky, dew, and the fatness of the earth are in the cuneiform language. 600 years later, we're going to have the same thing in the Hebrew Bible. If I put the slide in there. Hold up. Now that would be messed up. 600 years later. 600 years. Unable to connect the clearly related element found in Ugaritic literature with the Hebrew Bible, the historians have claimed that there were two, because it was talking about Jacob and Esau. Maybe it's in another slide. The same phrase and idiom of the sky, dew, and the fatness of the heaven and earth. Unable to connect the clearly related element found in Ugaritic literature with the Hebrew Bible, the historians have claimed that the two were never connected in spite of the fact that various names of gods, idiomatic or related expressions, etc., are clearly found in both. It is the established chronology that has forced this irrational decision on the historical community. The scribes of Ugarit required an educational system to train them from the bottom up. The simplest texts are found there are ABC tablet listing the letters of the local alphabet fixed in their invariable order. The Phoenician alphabet of over 22 letters is derived from the longer Ugaritic ABCs of 30 letters. Contrary to the strict alphabet principle, where each letter represents one sound, the Ugaritic alphabet has 3 different aleph or a signs. The last 3 letters of the Ugaritic ABC are appendages, so that 27 remain for our consideration. I'm going to keep going. That is, the letters in the Hebrew alphabet 600 years later are in the same order as the letters of the Ugaritic alphabet 600 years earlier. Why? One must ask, would the Hebrews, who supposedly had nothing to do with Ugarit, organize their alphabet so all the Hebrew letters were in the same order as those in Ugarit? The obvious answer is that they were borrowing between the alphabets by scribes who learned the letters in almost identical order. The probability that such ordered alphabets should be so nearly identical defies there being a mere hapstance. In fact, historians maintain the Greeks obtained their alphabet from the Phoenicians because the letters are both alphabetically identical. Gotta keep going. The full chronology of Ugarit is almost entirely notional. A 14th century BCE, based on the 18th dynasty Amarna documents, is symbolic of a possible millennium spanning 2200 to 1200 BC, which I said there was no strata. He's saying there's some strata. So he didn't give a year either. Significance, in other words, for this chronology has been read into, not out of the traces of evidence. Let's see. Based on the established chronology and shockingly, they're also found in Egyptian texts of the same time. As Velikovsky wrote in Ramses II in his time in 1978. He tells of a 19th dynasty Egyptian scribe writing Hebrew during the 14th century BCE. In brief, there are numerous classical Hebrew words found in Egyptian language as, for example, the epic poem of Pentateuch commemorating the heroic deeds of Ramses II. And Hebrew words were used instead of their equivalents in Egyptian. If it was there, it was a Hebrew college in Egypt to train Egyptian scribes to write Hebrew and Phoenician. The scribe Hori wrote a response to another scribe who attacked him. Hori provided his deep learning of Hebrew and Palestinian geographical locations. The problem, as with Ugaritic of the same period, is that the Hebrew of 1300 BCE remained completely unchanged for 600 to 700 years that separated Hori from the period of historians say was the time of classical Hebrew. We keep going down. The fact that Manetho, writing of the Hyksos 1500 years later, I'm going backwards now, describes a brutal invasion rather than a gradual peaceful immigration should probably be understood in the background of his own times. The invasions of Egypt by the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians in the 7th and 6th century BCE were still fresh in Egyptian consciousness. So right there, you even have later Manetho writing about an Egyptian invasion that happened 1500 years before he was even alive. Some historians have suggested that the Hyksos came from Syria or Canaan or Arabia or even Nubia. But since, according to the established chronology, Egypt was in contact with these peoples and countries, they would have designated them by their proper Egyptian name, and the people that invaded and ruled Egypt would not be classed as some unknown foreign horde. The question of who the Hyksos were, where they came from, and where they disappeared to is like deja vu with the history of the Sea Peoples. So you have an enigmatic group, I'm going to just go to it, that comes into Egypt, they say around, give or take 1600 BCE or so. Not only do historians not know who the Hyksos were or where they came from or why they came, they don't know how long they stayed, though they have reached a consensus about how long these people ruled over Egypt. The length of the rule of the Hyksos dynasties is unknown as the number of kings. Manetho makes 2 dynasties, which is 15 and 16 rule, which according to Josephus, who cites him, reigned 511 years altogether as a whole. Africanus gave 284 years. So right there's a misquotation of Josephus to the Africanus, and Africanus is not Leo Scipius Africanus either. I'm going to keep going. The period of rule over Egypt by the Hyksos, the hill country kings, has been designated by the historians as the second intermediate period. We know that because I'm going to block you guys from saying that these people were also Hebrews. This slide got cut off a little bit. Budge is accusing his colleagues of forcing the chronology of Egypt into a preconceived notion based on the biblical narrative. That's what's going to happen, because what's going to happen later is we're going to find out something that's crazy. And this is archaeological strata I'm talking about now. He mentioned strata, but he's just talking about it. I'm going to show you guys something. What is happening is the Hyksos, what this author is equating them to, they are the Assyrians of the first millennium. And they are also the Akkadians of the third millennium, that the history was triplicated. And it's easy to see the history was triplicated as the Bible goes back, as the Mesopotamian history goes back, so does the Egyptian history, except for the Greeks saying, no, it started actually a little bit earlier. The Hyksos bought 10 bronzes to Egyptians. Now, what that means is they had arsenic in their swords. The Egyptians didn't have arsenic in their swords. The Akkadians, who came in 2300 BCE, have the same exact weapons. So the Akkadians invade Egypt in 2300 BCE. The Hyksos around, we'll say 16 to 1500, have the same weapons. They're called scimitars. That's a bronze scimitar from Tello between 2500 and 2400. You have a scimitar that's bronze, they're 10, that is from the period of the Hyksos. And then you also have the same scimitar from approximately 1300 BCE that the Assyrians used to attack the Egyptians. Now, the first question you should think of is this: how in the hell did the Egyptians have weapons that were outdated by 700 to 1,000 years if they're trading with the Levant? So they got attacked 3 times by 3 different people. But the strata of, this is what strata means. The strata is, and it's going to be real simple. The Hyksos dated from 1700 to 1650 BC. Are found directly beneath the Mitanni. The Mitanni are the Medes. They reclassified them in this book in Syria and Palestine. The Akkadians dated to 2300 to 2200 BC are found directly beneath the Mitanni, who are the Medes. The Old Assyrians dated to 1960 to 1400 are found directly beneath the Mitanni without any windblown materials. So there's no hiatuses. So you dig up the Medes, and we know the Medes is a newer culture. We know when the Medes ruled. All the weapons from the last 2 millennium are in the same location. We talk about strata. So that doesn't show chronology. So if he's going to mention strata, you have to tell me exactly where it is in the strata so we can establish a chronology. The newer culture's on top, the older culture's in the middle, and then the older one is under that. And there should be enough material in between to justify the timeline. So if you want to try to go backwards and say, well, the Hyksos, we're the Hyksos, I'm blocking that. All the weapons are the same. They're all 10 bronze weapons, and the Egyptians don't have them. From 3 different periods, it's the same damn weapons in the same locations. All the civilizations are, in fact, the Assyrians of the first millennium who were conquered by the Medes. It is the Assyrians whom historians have misidentified as the Hyksos that invaded Egypt. And this relates directly to the view that the Hyksos could possess the bronze, sickle swords, composite bows, and war chariots. As the Assyrian Empire, these invader conquerors had access to materials from all across their empire and beyond through trade. The birch bark that was in a composite bow actually came from Europe. It didn't even come from the Near East, which is crazy. So if you want to back the clock up and try to say that the Hyksos, well, I ran out of slides here. That's crazy. The Hyksos are the Egyptians. Hyksos are the Hebrews. It's not happening because all the weapons from the third millennium, second millennium, and the first millennium are found in the strata directly underneath the Medes with no windblown materials to prove that there was any type of settlements in between. I'll pass the mic. I'm going to concede my time. Y'all still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, because I'm having technical difficulties now. And look, because I'm being ghetto, I ain't going to front. I'm missing some slides any damn way. My whole third round ain't even there. But go ahead. I'm going to pass the mic. All I did was backed up. Because if you're backing up, you're going into another period of history, which approximately the Hyksos is the time of Moses and Abraham and Joseph. So what you're doing is
you pass the mic. You pass the mic.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Why are you still talking?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, man. All right, so we're gonna move on. This is the bottom of the second. Jashube, Scholastic Bully, let's go.
This is funny to me. This is comical, really. You don't have your rounds. All right, fine. I'll just thrash you. All right. Anyway, you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, back to the PowerPoint, back to the business, man. Let's get to it. Can the people see my PowerPoint? Is it up for everybody?
Yeah.
All right. Again, you straw manning me. Did I ever mention Hiscos? I don't know why you're talking about the Hiscos. Judges, I hope you're paying attention to this brother talked about a bunch of stuff that really didn't touch on the topic. But anyway, guess what? That's okay. That's better for me. This is a competition. I'm trying to beat you. So go ahead and keep talking about irrelevant stuff. I'm going to stay on the topic. Again, the topic is, can we show Hebrew culture prior to the 7th century BCE? And, you know, I'm a master of recapitulation. Anyway, Shiloh stratigraphic data. You keep talking about, stratum. Yeah, I gave you the date for the stratum that I was showing. Shiloh goes back to the Iron Age, Iron 1 and Iron 2. I gave you the dates. 13th century BCE to 11th century BCE. Were you listening? Well, maybe you having technical problems. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, let's get into it. Thus, one cannot escape the conclusion that there was a strong memory in the late monarchic Judah, which you say don't even exist. that's hilarious. Like, anyway, of an early devastated cult place of Shiloh. In the case of Shiloh, we have evidence then. You know what evidence means, Sean? For the preservation in the Bible of certain memories. Whoa, wait a minute. Didn't you say this stuff came later? After the 7th century BCE? Even though I kind of thrashed you with the 7 spotted lamps, you know, the material culture that we can find going back to the 10th century BCE and going into the Iron 2A period and one period. The avoidance of pig bones. You didn't even address any of that. But anyway, in the case of Shiloh, we have evidence then for the preservation in the Bible of certain memories. This strengthens the possibility that some memories regarding a North Israelite entity, if the Israelite people are probable, the Hebrew culture is probable, that existed in the 10th century BCE. So what is this brother talking about, 7th century BCE? What is he talking about? Our mind is to really think about that. What is he talking about? Were also preserved and transmitted, first orally and perhaps later in a written form, until they found their way into the late monarchic Judite texts. In the source, the Forgotten Kingdom, the archaeology and history of the Northern Kingdom history. Israel Finkelstein, page number 50. And I'm going to keep hitting you across the head with Israel Finkelstein because he's a biblical minimalist and he's an archaeologist. And he's even coming to the conclusion that, hey, we can't avoid Shiloh. Shiloh is showing material culture. Shiloh is actually reflecting what the Bible said about it. It's a cult place, and they did animal sacrifice, and they did ritual practices there. You cannot get around that. That's in the ground. That's what they dug up. Come on, man. That's empirical data. Things that we can observe. You guys are too religious. You guys are religious, man. The facts are right in your face. Anyway, sacrificial customs and cultic practice at Mount Ebal. Evidence of early Hebrew culture. A late Bronze Age, circa 1250 BC. I'm giving you dates, Sean. Structure was discovered on Mount Ebal in 1980 by Israeli archaeologist Adam Zertal. Excavations by the University of Haifa and the Israel Exploration Society from 1982 to 1989 revealed that this structure consisted of a circular stone and repository with adjacent fafisa containing hammerstones in a chalice. Nearby were scattered earth, pot shards, and large quantities of ash and animal bones. You know why they had large quantities of ash and animal bones? Because they were sacrificing animals. There were ritualistic practices going here. This was Hebrew culture. 2 scarabs associated with the late Bronze Stratum were of Thutmose II, 18th dynasty, and Ramesses II, 19th dynasty, and helped fix a mid to late 13th century date to the establishment of the site. So the brother can't say, he ain't dealing with dates. I've been dealing with dates this whole time. The site had been remodeled in the Iron Age 1 period, which is circa 1200 to 1140 BC, including a structure of unhewn stones whose interior was filled with layers of animal bones. What type of animal bone? That's how you know it's Israelite. Male bulls, sheep, goat, and deer. You don't see pork here. You don't see pigs here. Because that's how you know it's an Israelite polity. That's how you know it's an Israelite locality, an Israelite edifice. This is how you know. It says ash and iron one pottery. On the southeastern side of the main structure was a structure of a 22-degree incline that was interpreted as a ramp. Because if you read the Bible in Exodus, it tells you when you make your altars, you do not use steps, you use ramps. That's in the book of Exodus. It says, as a ramp with paved courtyards adjoining the ramp on each side, stone installations filled with jars, jugs, and juglets. And bones and ashes were found in these courtyards. There were also the remains of earlier four-room house, a typical Israelite house. So there's no question what they found here. This is resemblance of an Hebrew culture. That's what they found here. Cultic practices, the animal sacrifice, the avoidance of the pigs, the way the altar was built shows you that these were Hebrew people practicing Hebrew culture. That's what it shows. You can't get around that. And this is the Iron Age period, people. I told you what the Iron Age period was, 1200 BC to 1000 BCE. Well, gives us about a 600 heads. I won. What are we talking about? And the source is Zondervan Handbook of Biblical Archaeology by Randall Price, H. Wayne House, page number 131 and 132. Now I want to give you guys a visual of the altar on Mount Ebal. Archaeology confirms and discovers Hebrew culture in the 13th century. Deuteronomy 27, verses 5 through 6 says, build there an altar to the Lord your God, an altar of stones. And that's what we find here at Mount Ebal. Do not use any iron tool on them. Build the altar to the Lord your God with field stones and offer burnt offerings on it to the Lord your God. And that's exactly what the archaeologists found in the 80s. Exactly. Mimicking exactly what we find in the biblical narrative. You cannot deny this. Only religious zealots that want to go against the Bible and everything about the Bible you have to go against because of your religiosity. You're a doctrinaire, dude. Anyway, let's move on. These details are consistent with the archaeological evidence at the site. Joshua 8 and 30 to 31 says, then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no iron tool had been used. On it, they offered the Lord's burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship offerings. Again, we read in the article, that you didn't see any unclean foods being sacrificed to the deity. That's a known Israelite ethnic marker. That's a known Hebrew ethnic marker. What can you do with that? Irrefutable. All right, so let's move on to the pottery. Pottery can be used as an ethnic marker, which reveals culture. Therefore, it seems clear that plain pottery must have been canonized at some point as an Israelite marker. The source for that is Israel Ethnogenesis by Abraham Foss, page number 70 to 71. The proof is in the pottery, like we said prior. Excavations in the palace found in the 8th century BC Ostracon bearing the name Akiba, possibly in the Aramaic form of Yaakov, 2 jar handles containing the name Zachariah, remembered by the Lord. Now, why is that important? They found pottery in the 8th century BC with the word Zachariah or Zachariah, which means remembered by the Lord, which has Yah in it. That's theophoric implications. That's showing you their belief system in the deity that they venerated. That's culture. That's culture. Undeniable culture. That's why I read in my first round that studying personal names reveal culture. And that's what the sociologists use, the ethnologists use. So that's what I'm using. All right, so like I said, y'all watch Sonnet TV to get y'all debate tactics. I watch PhDs. So let me work. It says, in a shortened form of Mick Yahoo, which means who is like the Lord. Also showing theophoric elements. Theophoric means the name of God being bearing the name of a deity, right? And you can see Yahoo has the word Yahoo in it, a Yah. So this is an 8th century. This is an 8th century artifact, an ostracon that bears witness to the veneration and worship and commemorance of Yah. That's Hebrew culture. Keep going, man. All right, so now we're going to deal with the egalitarian Hebrew culture that we can find. It says, the common Israelite domestic structure of this period is known as the four-room house. So he didn't even touch on that. He didn't even say anything about the four-room house, which is a known Israelite structure. That's culture, man. It says, although a few examples can be found in adjacent areas, the vast majority are within Israel, Sean. Are you going to pay attention to what's being brought out today? Oh, okay. You can just drown in the loss. You know what I'm saying? I'm Captain Planet. I told you I'm here to remove the trash. It says in an egalitarian ideology is clearly reflected in the plan of the four-room house, as can be seen in analysis of the movement within the house. Each room is easily accessible. There is no hierarchy in the structure in the rooms. Once in the central room, a person could go directly to the desired space. If a better space were reserved for a superior position, this is not reflected in the spatial arrangements. So we can see that this Hebrew culture existed through what? The stratum. Stratigraphic evidence. How you think they got this? They dug it up. What's going on, man? Talk to me. It says, decorated pottery avoidance shows early Israelite culture. It is possible that the Israelites chose not to decorate their pottery as part of their ethnic negotiation with the Philistines, and that the tradition continued into the Iron II. The typical Philistine decoration disappeared after the Iron I, and therefore, if it indeed was the cause for Israelite avoidance, this must have been a result of the Iron I interaction. So we can clearly see the Hebrew culture coming in. They avoided to be anything like the Philistines, like the Bible says, which became a cultural and ethnic marker to show these people were there practicing their belief system. Source: Israel Ethnogenesis, Settlement, Interaction, Expansion, and Resistance by Abraham Foss, page number 68 and 70. Jeremiah, how I'm looking on time, brother? How am I looking? How much I got, man? Talk to me. What I got? Let me know. Somebody let me know. Somebody let me know. Early Israel, a egalitarian culture. Egalitarianism played no doubt a part in it.
I was on mute. You got 2 minutes, all right?
All right, egalitarianism played no doubt a part in the internal structuring of Israelite society. It remained different from other groups, and since the lack of decoration is at least partially a byproduct of this behavior, it therefore is also an importance for identifying ethnicity, Sean. So we can see through the artifacts, the pottery shards, the ostracons that we find, bearing the name of Yah, showing the culture, showing that it was egalitarian, like we see in the Bible, showing the avoidance of pork bones, pork as for consumption that's needs, right? We see that. We can see the four-room house, and we can see the egalitarian culture. We see all these things. So the culture did exist prior to the 7th century BCE. Thanks for the easy win. Let's keep going, man. The best evidence for ethnicity in culture, and this is why I brought you into the pottery shards. I want my judges and audience to understand this. Visual expression of underlying structures of belief and thought that most distinctly constitutes the society's unique identities. This being the case, pottery decoration and indeed the structure systems of ceramic types are likely to offer not only good, but the best evidence of ethnicity generally preserved in the archaeological record. That's why I brought that pottery up. It's the best evidence to show you that these Hebrews are there. See, you thought you was going to get somebody that's going to read the Bible to you all day. That's what you thought. You thought I was going to go, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse. No, that's not me. Wrong Israelite. Wrong Israelite. Let's keep going. Epigraphical evidence of early Hebrew culture. I want to say this for my next round. So y'all know what it is. Scholastic Bully, Captain Planet, other debate community. I'm here to take the trash out. 7 gang. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it, man.
Yo, hold up, man. Sean Ski, man, are you good on you good to continue for the next round, right? We
I'm
feel
gonna
good,
continue
right?
the next round, but you know, I did make a mistake. So if it cost me, it just cost me. So I'm gonna just kind of go back over what I was doing and summarize because I'm missing about 15 slides, and that's my fault, and it is my fault. I only have 31 slides here, and I had 50 something, just like he did. He said
Oh, okay.
58. So what I'm gonna do is only thing I can do in the third round because I'm still using the source of the Charles Jananthal Egypt and Palestine book, Pillars of the Past, Volume 3. So the sources for the third round were still coming from the same book. So I'm just gonna kind of rebut what he's saying. That's all I
All right,
can
man.
really do.
So look, you got 15 minutes, man.
All right, hold
You
up.
got
Wait.
15 minutes.
Let me start my clock. Can you see my screen still? You see
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead then. So what you did in this whole debate was you used biblical archaeology, and from the gate, what I'm saying is the biblical chronology is used, and those are erroneous biblical fundamental dates. So all you're doing, and all biblical archaeologists do, is assign the date from the chronology of the Bible to the archaeology, and don't let the archaeology speak for itself. So you have later written Hebrew manuscripts that magically pop up and magically become a complete Bible eventually, and those dates, according to the strata, again, are wrong. This slide right here says it again. You're going to the Iron Age, and I get that. So in the Iron Age, we know when the Iron Age was. This first slide says, the belief in Israel's biblical chronology results in the deletion of Israel's history and no Exodus. The biblical periods of some 890 years without strata in Jerusalem during the 1060 years from 1200 BC to 440 BC. And you just stepped out past that. You went backwards. My last round was going to show that the strata from the kingdoms that we know existed, the Medes, the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, absolutely positively, it's their culture. And the biblical narrative is fit into anything they find. I mean, talking about no pork bones, man. No pork bones in the way a building is built is the proof, and what biblical archaeologists are saying. So what that means is Professor Heisen, who I know, is lying then. He made up a lie and said that there's no strata on the left chart and the right chart. Again, these are the erroneous textbook dates on the right. 70 AD to 142, 560 to 720. From 1300 to 12, and then 1700 to 1600, we're outside really of the realm of the Iron Age. They say it's around 1200 BCE. I'm cool with that. Then we go back to the Old Akkadian period, which is from 1700 to 2300. And my last slide, in my last set of slides, it's showing there's no strata. And I had shown how you measure strata in my last round, which I don't have in front of me, that the second millennium and third millennium BCE don't even exist. They don't even exist. Back to the left side of the column. There's 190 years without residential quarters from 140 to 390. From 330 to 560, there's 220 years without residential quarters. So they don't have residential quarters in the Persian and Hellenistic period. How do they have houses and residential houses back before that? Again, it's just Finkelstein, and I have Finkelstein in this book too. He cited too. You're putting erroneous dating to the archaeology, and you're saying it's in the strata, but you're not showing how the strata is measured. Again, newer culture on top, the Medes. That's why I brought up the Hyksos. The Hyksos, the Assyrians, and Old Akkadian weapons are all on the same level strata, and they're horizontal. They're not on top of each other to show that there's gaps in between, to take it backwards. So he mentioned none of that in strata. He's saying the strata proves that these houses are Israelite, and there's no pig bones, so it means that these are the Israelites. And Professor Heisen is saying there ain't no Israelites. 0 from Saul to David, Solomon to Ahaz. 0. And that what they're essentially doing is they're taking the history of the Medes and saying that that's their history. The Exodus, the 13th to the 15th century. There is nothing whatsoever for the Exodus period. So you don't have nothing from the Exodus period all the way up to the 6th century is what I'm saying. And then forward, you still don't have houses or none of that. The whole purpose of that book, Pillars of the Past, and I do have them for sale now, is outlining it and showing sources from both sides. Some of the sources he's actually using from biblical archaeology versus archaeologists who went and said, you know what? In 2005, I believe it was, It was Gunnar Heisen that got a geologist to reopen the excavations. Let's reopen the excavations and see if we ain't just blowing smoke up people's ass. Let's see if you can show that the Egyptians or Mesopotamian culture, which would include the biblical culture, even goes back 3 millennium from, we'll say, the 1st century BCE. And it was emphatically from the geologist's standpoint. No, it doesn't. So you're applying erroneous biblical dates to archaeology and saying, see, we found it, we got it right here. And you're talking about the law again. I'm going back to the other slides I was showing. It doesn't start to be written until after the exodus of Babylon. That's the earliest fragments you're going to find of the writing of the book you prize and to use a little bit on your backwards trace. It's a roadmap. It's historical literature. It's not evidence. So what you're doing is you still applied the evidence and said, there's the evidence. We have the book. That's what it is. I'm going to make another comment. Same way, because Jericho exists and the walls are a little crumbled, that means the Israelites was there. That don't mean nothing, man. I'm still staying on the same chart. Everything you said. There's no archaeological finds, and they're scarce from 140 to 330, 300 to 500, 550, 720 to 1200, in the 13th century to 15th century. In the period from, we'll say, 550, as I outlined before, you got biblical writings then. You can't justify culture without even having a language. And you're saying, no, it goes further back. There's nothing in the strata. You're saying it is in the strata. I'm saying it's not in the strata. So we're on both two sides of the stick. You're using biblical archaeology, and I'm not. I'm using just archaeology and the data from the professors. It's mainly Professor Gunnar Heisen. Another one's name is Emmett Sweeney. Another one's name is Lynn Rhodes. And they're the ones that compiled the information together to say what they're saying exists in the strata. They're force-fitting the story into the strata, that it doesn't exist that way. They're just saying, hey, we got it. This is it. Again, last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to pass the mic. There's no archaeological finds, and they're scarce from 140 to 330, 330 to 550, 720 to 1200, and the 13th to the 15th century. And I mentioned the Hyksos just to show they're really jackknifing the history of the Assyrians and triplicating it to say there was 3 different separate invasions in Egypt when there was really only one. And you slide the king's list of Egypt forward, slide it forward, line it up with the Assyrian period, then you see your Palestinian story make more sense. Then you'll see the Egyptian history make more sense. Last point, because I don't have it in the slide, but it was in my slides. The excavations in Tel Amarna. There was a dated to the 6th century BCE, a Hebrew settlement. Flinders Petrie was the actual archaeologist, and it's in the book, so I ain't making it up. Flinders Petrie, when they excavated 6th century Palestine, they found something amazing. They found scarab, beetles, and pottery that said the Hebrew people then were paying their taxes to Amenhotep and Tutmos. There was 30 scarabs found in various pots, clay pots with the tax records on them. So he was like, whoa, that would mean the Israelite culture would be older. But wait a minute. How would they be slaves in Egypt if they're paying taxes to the Egyptians? So he couldn't back the time period up to the period of Tutmos and Amenhotep. So he was stuck right there, and then he couldn't date Amenhotep and Tutmos as more forward into the 1st millennium like it should be. So you know what he said? And it's in the same book. They're forgeries. So he said nothing that we found at this excavation site that has anything to do with Egypt and Tutmos and Amenhotep, because it's 1,000 years out of date. They're forged. That's when the falsification started. He stayed with the standard biblical chronology, the standard history of Egypt chronology, and standard Mesopotamia, disregarded the history and the chronology of the Greeks, who some people will say, well, the Greeks came later, they stole this and that. No, their history, then, from what I have in this chart that's still in front of us, is more consistent with all the strata. It's more consistent with all the strata. It's not perfect, but it's way more consistent than the erroneous biblical dates. So again, I don't have the slides to show it, but I want to just show how strata works. And you have an older culture underneath a newer culture, and as further you go down, there should be settlement gaps to show this culture was in 1600, this culture was in 600. There should be at least 1,000 years worth of windblown materials on top of it to justify it. So he keeps mentioning strata, and he's not showing, well, at least how the strata works. That was in my 3rd round. Again, I'm just talking right now. It sounds really good. But this really debate is really biblical archaeology versus archaeology. And the archaeologists from Flinders Petrie moving forward stuck with the biblical narrative, even though what they were finding in Egypt and the Middle East was conflicting with the whole story. They placed the cultures and they mix matched them. The Sumerians were made up. Jules Opert made them up. They were the Chaldeans. They always were the Chaldeans. He made it up in 1869. And that strata, again, was at the top layer. How would the strata of the Sumerians be above that of the Assyrians? That's what the strata is showing even over there. That, damn, well, how's the Sumerians the oldest, but they're on top? It can't be that way. And I'm just talking right now again. I'm just talking, but I won't misrepresent the book Pillars of the Past. Number one, I know the publisher. Number two, I asked him if I could use the books to go ahead and just present it and just kind of cut and paste some things. I didn't make pictures. You know, I'll even say that he had a pretty good slide presentation, but it's nothing I haven't heard before. I'm saying, according to this chart, his dates are erroneous and it's bullshit. It doesn't match. It's force fitted into the narrative that's still Hellenistic. You didn't have a narrative back in the day. You didn't have a culture with a language, art. You didn't have none of that. Some pig bones. You're talking about pig bones and some building frames and some candlesticks justify the whole culture when we know the fragments of the writings, especially Dead Sea Scrolls. I'll say 500 BC. I'll stretch it out that far, but you won't find any writings that go back further than that, which is the first thing you need for a culture. And I apologize, I don't have the last, segment of my slide presentation. That's what I get for rushing through it, knowing what I'm talking about, but saying, okay, I'm just going to paste it over and it's all good. I don't have the rest of the slides. But simply in conclusion, the language was copied from Phoenician, not even Ugaritic, but they have Ugaritic idioms in the Bible. You can show more of that. And there's a gap of 600 years anyway, which shouldn't be there. It should be squozed tighter together. So I'm saying for anybody in this chat, and I had it in the slides, all that has been done is you take the 3rd and 2nd millenniums BCE, take the history of the Hebrews, take the history of the Egyptians, and take the history of the Assyrians and Mesopotamian cultures and push the timeline to 1200 BC. Push it forward. No farther back than 1500 BC. Without the intermediate periods, you can't prove a history in Egypt with the intermediate periods. So push the timeline together and see how it looks. You'll understand it better. You'll see it clearly right in front of your face as per the strata. They're only doing it because the strata is showing that they can actually do that. Now, it's not perfect. The AD chronology of Gunnar Heisen is really good. But the BCE still needs a little bit more work. There's arguments going back and forth from the scholars. But they're looking at anybody that using biblical narratives, historical stories, that's circular because you're going to use the story and all you're going to do is push the story into where you want it to fit with the archaeology, which is what he essentially did. And he's doing it with a nice little hype attitude and stuff. If that's what he believes, that's cool. I don't buy it. Again, my last slide, I'm going to show it again. According to what you're saying, you're making it up because the strata says there is nothing that you can take back to the Hebrew culture from 140 BC to 1200 BC. There's nothing there that is force fitted into the narrative. And it's much newer. So then David even would be much further ahead. You wouldn't have Moses. You push everything forward and put it into a more compact timeline. But then it ends up being confounding because we know the history of the Achaemenid Empire. We know the history of the Greek Empire. We know the history of the Roman Empire. So it's not even mentioned. Achaemenid Empire is not even mentioned in the Bible. They don't even bring it up. I'm saying the Bible's a roadmap, which is cool. But once you squeeze it together per the strata, there's parts you're going to have to take out. And it's going to start really essentially around 500 BC, according to the records of the literature. That's when they wrote it, man. You can't have a culture without a language. Stop it, man. Stop it. And it came from Phoenician, which came from Ugaritic. I'm done. I'll pass the mic.
Yo.
That's it. I'm done.
All right, man. All right. So, man, let me say something, man, because let me say something real quick, man.
Yeah, and I apologize. That's my fault. That messes up the debate because I had a third round, and that's what I get for rushing. You know what I'm saying?
That's all right.
Either way, I'm gonna say my last thing. I'm never gonna stop talking about these books, and I've been talking about these books for 2 years with y'all. All I did was cut and paste some stuff. 2 years. Go ahead, keep going. Y'all good.
Well, look, man, I'm gonna say this.
Go ahead, bro.
At the end of the day, when we're looking at both sides of this argument, and you see that these people, right, could possibly be mingled in. These people just pop up out of nowhere, right? Or is it really the situation where practices from other cultures are being just singled out and identified as Hebrew Israelite culture? I mean, is that what's going on here?
I think, and again, what it is historians or bibliographers use the standard chronology of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Bible. They all mesh together. So what the author is saying is
this brother still debating?
No, I'm just talking. That's what the author's saying. All the author's saying is
rhetoric master.
No, it's not rhetoric. I mean, come on, man.
No, it's super rhetoric.
Hold up,
super rhetoric, man.
Look, the Pastor Mike, do your third round.
Yeah. I'm finna pass it on, man. Y'all hold up a second. Y'all hold up a second, right? So,
I got a question.
Okay, hold up. Before we get the questions, man, we have to. I'm just speaking about the parallels in which we're looking at with this debate, right? So when it comes to what we should be doing, and everybody that's watching right now, I'm fired up because to me, this is dope. You know what I mean? To be able to look at the information, balance out two sides. This is why we intellectually we get in this, because it's really a sparring match, man, when it comes to the information. Why? Because when you do deep research, there's usually two sides on an argument. So you got one pulling from this side, one's pulling information from this side, and they have to clash so we can find out which is lining up correctly, man. So this is why we debate. This is the source, man. Right? And so the information that comes out is something that you and I can go and research and look and have some advancement in our view on history, man. So these things are important, man, for us as a people, man. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. This is the source, and this is what it's all about. Yo, right? Champ, you ready for this last round?
Hey, man, I already purchased this gravestone. His name going to look beautiful on it. I'm getting ready to lower the casket now. You know what I'm saying? We're going to put the dirt on. Hold on. I want you to give a speech for the family. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on, man. So before you go, D-Red, go ahead, man. You had a question.
I wanted to know, since he's quoting seemingly exclusively from this book, this one book. I wanted to know what was the author's credentials. You know what I mean? I'm just interested in that.
Professor Heisen is a doctor, has a doctorate in history. He's from Germany, and he's presenting these arguments in real time in Europe, especially to Russians, people from England, from people from America. He's presenting the argument for just mainstream historians.
So he's not an archaeologist.
He's
argument
not an
over.
archaeologist.
Okay, then argument over. I'm using archaeologist. Thank you.
Well, again.
Thank you.
All right. D-Red, you get your question answered. You wanted to know the author, the history of the author, right?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know a little backdrop about the guy. You know what I mean? Because, you know, if I say that at the judgment, but
he's talking about stratigraphic data. He's not even using an archaeologist to make the argument. It's over.
All right, hold on, Jashube.
All right, go ahead. I'm good.
All right,
I just want to know that.
Let's get this brother's last round underway. Let's go, man.
All right, you see my string? I'm just gonna
baby.
Yeah, it's a sort. We source up and shut up. We don't give rhetoric rounds. I understand you, but that's on you. You didn't prepare. I prepared. I work over 50 to 60 hours a week, and I still get my PowerPoints done. Not an excuse. Can my screen be seen?
Yes.
All right. We're gonna deal with the stratigraphy of Tel El Farah, because unlike my opponent, he's using just a historian. I'm using an archaeologist, Israel Finkelstein, and he deals with stratigraphy. What is this about again? Like, this is crazy, and I had to take a picture of it. I couldn't type it up fast enough while he was talking, so I just took a picture of the page, and the page is page number 69 of the Forgotten Kingdom, the archaeology and history of the Northern Kingdom, right? So it says the stratigraphy of Tel Elfara, and it gives you the dates, it gives you the stratigraphic layer and everything. So what is this brother talking about, man? I'm using archaeologists using a historian. You can't even say stratum. Why are you bringing up stratum and using a historian? Can you use somebody that is qualified on the information we're talking about that can deal with the archaeological digs and the paleontological arguments that we're giving today? I guess not. Anyway, another page I had to do a quick rebuttal on. It's like, these people don't exist. Well, if you look in Sinai 115 and Theban Tomb 155, and I've been showing that this culture has been here all day. All he's been doing, I want my judges to understand this, is special pleading. It's a logical fallacy where he ignores evidence that contradicts his premise. That's his whole argument. Let me just ignore these 4-room houses. Let me just ignore the pig avoidance. And those are the only 2 things he brought up. He didn't bring up the 7-spouted lamps. He didn't bring up the pottery that shows avoidance of the Philistine pottery and showing a distinct ethnic identity and cultural identity. He didn't even touch on that. Bruh, this is not your field. Sinai 115 and the Theban Tomb 155 proves a Hebrew cultural identity existed prior to the 7th century BC. The source of the world's oldest alphabet by Douglas Petrovich. In Sinai 115, which is dated to Dynasty 12, which I believe is 1900 BCE, it says Ibri in it. It has Ibri, which means the Hebrews of. Theban Tomb 155, Dynasty 18, says Hebrews or Peru. Peru, it has the same letters. It has the same hieroglyphics to denote the word. That's how Douglas Petrovich made the connection. A lot of people, you want to critique this book, but have you read it? I read it. Let's keep going, man. So that pushes the Hebrew culture all the way back to the 19th century BCE. And during the time of Thebes was like the 14th, 13th century BCE. What is this guy talking about, man? You got to find another Israelite. Epigraphical evidence of early Hebrew culture. It says the unimpressive looking shard measures only 3.5 to 6 inches, but it contains a dramatic addition to the study of ancient Hebrew epigraphy into the early history of the alphabet. This brother talking about you didn't have no alphabet and a language into the 6th century BC. What are you talking, bro? We have these shards and ostracons that prove that we did have a language. And the source for that is an alphabet from the days of the judges by Aaron Dembski. BasilLibrary.org is where you can find that article. Again, here's a picture of the ABCD of the Isbet Sartha, right? Going back to the Iron Age period. You can see it right there. It's real archaeology. This brother trying to make it, biblical. No, they're digging this up and finding it. This brother just tried to do the true Scotsman fallacy. Oh, it's not real archaeology if it's dealing with Bible or dealing with Hebrew. That's a true Scotsman fallacy. I want my judges to be well aware of that. Now, we're dealing with the theophoric argument, bearing the name of God, which shows culture. All I have to do is show you a name bearing the name of Yah. Boom, argument over. The Hebrew culture existed before the 7th century because we can see the theophoric element in nature of their names, meaning they reverence and venerated Yah, which is a part of the Hebrew culture. Now we're going to go to the King Hosea's seal unveils Hebrew tribal culture. You see the Hebrew strip. I have images right here. This is the actual seal. You can see the Hebrew language that he said didn't even exist at this time. Hebrew language didn't exist at this time, but we have seals going back to the 8th century BC with Hebrew language. Who's lying here? The Abdi bearing theophoric elements of culture. The name of the northern kingdom of Israel's last king has turned up on a beautiful seal from the 8th century BCE. Although the seal did not belong to the king himself, it was the property of one of his high-ranking ministers. The king is Hosea. In Hebrew, the same name as that of the prophet Hosea, but referring to a different person. Hosea ruled from 732 to 731 BCE to 722 BCE, just before it was destroyed by the Assyrian conquest. The minister name inscribed in the seal is Abdi, or to the use of his full name in English, Obadiah. Again, the name of a prophet, but a different person. Obadiah has the word Yah in it, which reflects Hebrew culture because it's theophoric in nature and giving reverence to the God Yah. That's showing Hebrew culture in the 8th century BCE. Argument over. It's been over since the first round, really. You want to keep it a buck. Source: royal signature name of Israel's last king surfaced in a private collection. And you can get Andre Lemaire is the author of that article. You can find it on basillibrary.com. All right. And this source is the ancient Near Eastern text related to the Old Testament with supplement, James Pritchard, page number 132. And if you don't know anything about the Anet, A-N-E-T, it's a collection of all the archaeology from the Levant, Egypt, Babylon, Sumeria. It's a $150 book, but it's well worth every penny because it collects all the inscriptions. Now, when you deal with Tiglath-Pileser III, we have a record of his campaigns against Israel, right? And it's called the building inscription against Syria and Palestine. It says, I laid waste the large district of Judah and made the overbearing and proud Hezekiah its king bow in submission. And we know Judah has the theophoric nature as well. It has Yah in it. So that shows worship of Yah in the 8th century BCE. That's culture. That's belief, right? So you're dealing with the cultural memory of these people, right? And it's preserved in the names. It says, and made the overbearing proud Hezekiah its king to bow in submission. So this is proof Hezekiah was a king. He was a monarch. There was a monarch system existing. There was a culture attached to that monarch system, and it's the Hebrew culture, right? Even Hezekiah has it in his name. Here it is. Hezekiah's name is theophoric evidence of Yah veneration, which is Hebrew culture. We go to the blue letter, Strong's H2396. It says Hezekiah, and what it means, Jehovah is my strength, or Yah is my strength. Yah is literally in the transliteration because Yah is being venerated through his name. That's why I wanted my judges to understand the theophoric element within these names, because it reflects that the culture was persistent at that time and they acknowledged Yah and reverenced him and venerated him as a deity. That's something we would expect to see, and it's before the 7th century. All right, let's deal with King Jehu. What you gonna say? This is made up. This was found. The Black Obelisk was found and dug up as well. And on the Black Obelisk, we actually have a rare sight. You have King Jehu in his clothing. We have a picture of his clothing, which reflects the culture. Because according to Numbers 15:38, it instructs the children of Israel to put fringes on the borders of their clothes. The Assyrians didn't do that. As you can see to the left of your screen, they have fringes all over their clothes. But when you look at the Israelite king bowing down to, I believe, Shalmaneser, you can clearly see that the only fringes he has is on the border. That's Hebrew culture. And the Black Obelisk, I believe, is the 9th or 8th century BCE as well. So again, the premise is, the title is, can we find Hebrew culture before the 7th century BCE? The answer is emphatically yes, because we see Jehu, and we see the culture, and we can see him with the cap, we can see him with the robe, and we see him with the fringes. These are distinct Hebrew markers. Come on, bruh. What was you doing? And that third round was terrible. It was just rhetoric. Anyway, Jehu name is proof of Hebrew culture due to the theophoric nature of his name. So Yahu, or Yehu, has the word Yah in it. The word, according to the Strong's H3058, it means Jehovah is he or Yah is he, right? So that shows that culture of venerating Yah existed during the 8th century BCE. In the Black Obelisk inscription, it says, I received a tribute of the inhabitants of Tyre, Zidon, and of Jehu, son of Omri. And the source is 21st year according to the Black Obelisk. Translation by Luckenbill, page number 578, where you can find that. How am I doing on time, Jeremiah?
Got 2 minutes.
Okay. The Moabite stela confirms Omri, Gad, and Ahab. The source is Ancient Near Eastern Texts by James Pritchard, page number 164. As for Omri, king of Israel, wait, you had a king of Israel? The Omri dynasty was real? That means that Hebrew culture existed before the 7th century BC. Why am I doing this? Why did I This is just silly. This is starting to get silly. As for Omri, king of Israel, he humbled Moab many years, for Chemos was angry at his land, and his sons followed him, and he also said, I will humble Moab. Let's keep going. And I built same text, same source, and I built Baal Meon, making a reservoir in it, and I built Qaryatan. Now the men of Gad had always dwelt in the land of Ataroth, and the king of Israel had built Ataroth for them. And which, if you go into the biblical history, you go into the book of Numbers, you can see Gad actually inhabited Ataroth. So that piece of information and data lines up with the historical information and data, the archaeological information and data that we found through the Mesha Stele, the Moabite stone. It lines up with it. How are you saying these people didn't exist? How are you saying this culture didn't exist? Come on, man. All right, the Ostraka of Samaria. It says this name is applied to the homogeneous group of 63 dockets on Israelite pot shards, which were found by G.A. Resner in 1910, while excavating a floor level from the first phase of the second period of the palace construction at Samaria. Owing to a mistake of stratigraphy, which was subsequently corrected by J.W. Crawford and his associates. This level was first attributed to Ahab. It is now reasonably certain that it should be assigned to the reign of Jeroboam II, 786-746 BCE, which is the 8th century, by the way. The 4 regional years mentioned on the Ostraka extend from the 9th to the 7th century. The 9th to the 17th, about 778 to 77 BCE. These documents, though jejune in themselves, are great significance for the stripped spelling, personal names, topography, religion, administrative system, and clan distribution of the period. That's all dealing with culture, boy. That's culture, man. And we got Ostraka, which is pottery shards, showing that in Samaria. So what is this brother talking about, man? Now let's go to the Gezer calendar. The Gezer calendar provides cultural insight of the Hebrews. 10th century Hebrew artifact. He said the Hebrew language wasn't even there. Can he see? Is he blind? Look at the screen, Sean. I want you to look at it. This is a teaching moment. Look at the screen. You see this? This is the artifact. This is the calendar. It has Hebrew writing on it. Biblical Hebrew. The little inscription was discovered at Gezer in 1908. It is on a school exercise tablet of soft limestone, which would mean that we had a literate culture. We were all able to write. If there was a school, the commoner could send his kids there and learn, right? It says for a number of years, its date was uncertain, but recent discoveries established its relative archaism and point to the second half of the 10th century BCE. Bye, Sean. It's over. Or the very beginning of the night as its probable time. The writer would date it in or about the third quarter of the 10th century, about 925 BCE in round numbers. The language is good biblical Hebrew. Say it with me, Sean. The language is good biblical Hebrew in a very early spelling. It is written in verse and seems to have been a kind of mnemonic ditty for children. All right, what's my time, man? I got some more time. Dang, Scholastic Bully 7 gang. Let's go.
Right. Time is up. Yo. All right, man. So look, this is what it's about, right? This is what it's about, family. Like taking the information. That's why I encourage you, man, those that are watching, get involved, because the things that you stand on, right? Once you have to now defend it or go into a situation that you're preparing for, and you're crafting your information, then when you get into a conversation or another situation in regards to whatever it is that you're attempting to do to help the community, right? Once you're able to dive off into that and defend it, it makes you personally, it makes you better, right? So this is why we encourage the intellectual sparring. We encourage it because it makes you sharper. You understand? Your mind is focused on the information, and you could be off doing anything else, but you're here with us. Feel me? So we're trying to raise the elevation of scholarship, man. Like being able to bring a scholastic argument to the community. That's what we're doing this for, right? So I want to say this. seeing that we're going to go into the question and answer segment. You know, we have to work towards being prepared, right? Because you'll have an opportunity now to present something to the community that can help the community. It's your responsibility as a person delivering the information to be prepared. This is not a shot at DJ at all. This is letting you know, those that are watching or those that are planning on debating in the future, you have to be prepared, man. We know you got a life and you got this, that, and the third going on. We understand that, man. But when you get that opportunity to present the information, let's present our best, right? So we're going into the question and answer segment. Jashube, you got the first question. You got the first question to the brother since he started the debate out. So Jashube, are you ready?
My question to you is, are you familiar with the Merneptah Stele? And how do you explain the mention of Israel as a state in the 12th century BCE?
I would say from the translation, they're saying that it means that it was a region at the time. It's controversial that just because they say the translation is Israel, that is enough evidence to prove that there's a people there. I'm not too sure about that. That was also in some of my other slides. I did cover that, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. I don't find that as being absolute definitive proof that the culture existed. Though there's mention of it, I had the Hebrew in another slide that it's mentioned. I'm not denying that it isn't mentioned, but assigning it to the characters from the Bible might be where it's erroneous. To say these people right here, these Hebrew people, are indeed these people here, and then again they just span back to the 3rd millennium BCE. I'm saying no. 7th century forward, not 7th century backwards.
All right, man. So we have 2 minutes to answer each question, but you did fine. You was under the 2 minutes.
Okay.
But well, I'm just letting the people know, right? The timer is going on. You can ask your question. The person got 2 minutes to answer. All right. So hey Sean, it's your turn to ask a question.
Okay. In the last slide presentation you just showed, you showed a stellar of Jehu. First thing I noticed on the stellar is it looks Assyrian to me. It looks like the solar wing disk is right in the middle of it. And we know the solar wing disk is synonymous in several cultures. So are you positive that that's Hebrew Israelite, or are you not positive it's Hebrew Israelite? I would say it's Assyrian, that they're worshiping the solar wing disk the same way they're worshiping it in Egypt too. But so you saying from that stellar that those are the Israelites and they're worshiping a solar wing disk?
I am positive that Jehu is an Israelite. The obelisk itself is Assyrian. So of course it's going to have Assyrian iconography. We expect that. It's Assyrian. We know Jehu is an Israelite when you look at his name and his dress. I pointed out in my presentation. He's wearing fringes on the border of his clothes. He's wearing the mitre on his head. He's got the long robe on. And his name has Yah in it. It's theophoric, which would reflect worship and reverence of the deity. That's my answer.
Okay.
All right, Jashube, it's on you. These brothers getting 3 questions apiece. Those that are watching at home, we want you to cast your vote, man, in the comment board as we transition to the judges. Also, with the judges, I want y'all to DM me your vote. Right after this round, after these rounds of questions, I want y'all to DM me y'all vote so I can have it before I come to you and so you can explain it. All right. So Jashube was on you, right?
My second question is, the King's List has been verified through extra biblical sources like the Kirk inscription, the Black Obelisk, the conquest of Shalmaneser III. So how do you make sense of that with your premise?
The same way I make sense of it from Manetho's King's List, that Manetho compiled the chronology 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to the dynasties of 31. But with the fragments and what we've excavated, because it has been excavated, the Egyptian culture stood on its own. So you have a list of kings, and they found some of it in not only Egypt, but the Scythian vaults in Mesopotamia. There is evidence that there were some kings, historical kings that we read about that have been found, or at least the tombs have been found. I'm saying that just because you have a king's list doesn't mean anything. It's just a historical document. You need to have something to show vaults, like the Scythian vaults, like the Egyptian tombs, even if there's nothing in it, I don't really care. Something to show that these people had a culture, that they were burying their kings, or something. You got to show me something. You have a crib they lived in, a temple, something. Because from that first slide I showed that professor is saying there is nothing to even corroborate that except for a narrative. So you have the narrative, but it doesn't prove that there was actually kings that ruled. It doesn't prove anything to me. I need to see it. I'm good.
Ask your question.
Oh, my question then is, in your last round, you also talked about Hezekiah, and you showed a seal, and you're talking about the Hebrew language. From what I saw, and then one slide was really I couldn't see it that well. That doesn't look like the Hebrew language to me. It looked like Phoenician, and I made the assertion that it's Phoenicia. It's not Hebrew. So you're saying that from the stellar, that's the Hebrew language? Is that what you're saying? That the stellar you're showing proves that there was a Hebrew language that goes back past at least the 10th century. Is that the Hebrew language you showed?
I think you're mixing up two of my slides. When I mentioned
a small round, when you smelled and you said the king had he had a staff in his hand.
Yeah. That's a seal.
What I'm saying is that
that's
Hebrew,
not the Hezekiah. That's not the Hezekiah
seal, but you were in that area. I'm asking the question: is that the Hebrew language?
Yes, but also that question was a little loaded. So let me answer the rest of it.
Go ahead.
Even if you try to take away, it's not the Hebrew language. The scripts were identical: the Phoenician, Canaanite, and Hebrew.
I don't disagree with that.
All right, so that argument is weak. Secondly,
the one derived from the next, but go ahead.
Yeah. Secondly, if you just look at the name Hezekiah, Abdi, which is Obadiah, you look at these names. I kept saying and recapitulating during my round that they're theophoric in nature. They venerate Yah. You can't get around that. That's showing Hebrew culture prior to the 7th century BCE. All right, so that's my answer.
Man. So what question is this this last question, right?
I think that was the last one. Was it?
No,
that was it right there?
This is. I got one more, and he got one more.
He has one
more. Okay. Yeah. Right. All right, Jashube, it's on you.
So my last question is, how do you make sense of the four room structures known by all archaeologists? Well, the consensus is that they're Israelite homes, the avoidance of pig bones, and the 7 spouted lamps that we find in ritual use in that region during the Iron Age.
Well, I would say again, what my premise was from the beginning was you're force-fitting the chronology and the biblical story into the archaeology. We talked about strata too. And the point is, that's the point. I don't know whose house that is. Just because there's no pig bones don't mean nothing to me either. I need to see something, and there should be more with the culture, because Egypt stands on its own. Rome, Greece, Mesopotamia, those cultures stand on their own. The cultural content was dug up. They didn't have a book in late antiquity that was their definitive history, if you will, if you want to call it that. The cultures were mentioned by the historians like Herodotus, Berosus, Manetho, and they were dug up in the 1800s, and the cultural content was in the cultures, and they stand on their own. You don't have to reach. I'm saying at these excavation sites, because you have the narrative and the chronology, it's forced into it, regardless of the stratigraphy. It's forced into the stratigraphic data, not the other way around, where the stratigraphic data can put the story off to the side and let the stratigraphic data speak for itself. Let that be the final arbiter, rather than the story. Put the story off to the side and just deal with the data itself, and let the data from the remains give the chronology and tell the story. I'm saying that they're going to conflict is what I'm saying. They're going to be very conflicting. I wish I could have, nailed it down better, but, I'm saying they're conflicting and you're just applying erroneous dates to the already established biblical chronology. That's it.
Okay. Sean, so your last question.
Because I have some sources from Finkelstein too. Again, how are people like Finkelstein and archaeologists applying the dates to the strata? What methodology are they using to apply the dates? Like when you went into the 10th century, how are they doing that? And the reason why I'm asking that question is because there's a dark age gap between Ramses the 11th, approximately 1090 BCE, all the way to 660 BCE. There's no history in Egypt, nor any evidence to prove it. So, Ramses dies. There's no history in Egypt. How is there a history stratified, and how are they coming up with the dates going back into the 10th century? What's their method of doing that? What's their method?
Well, anyone knows basic stratigraphy. The lower you go into the earth, the older it gets. You even said it.
Right.
So that's the method they're using. They know what's Iron Age. They know what period's the Bronze Age, and they also know through the pottery shards they find and the metals they find. So that's how they determine what period they're in at that time. But first and foremost, the layer or stratigraphic layer, how deep it is in the ground. The youngest is going to be on the top, oldest is going to be on the bottom. You said that, so that's exactly what he's doing.
Okay. All right.
All right, man. We're transitioning now. Judges, I want you to go ahead and send me your votes. Go ahead and send me your votes. Everybody watching, I want you to put a 1 in the chat. The number 1 for Brother DjSeeanski. Number 1 for Brother Sean. I want you to put a number 2 in the chat for our brother, the Scholastic Bully, the champ. Right? So I want you to put a number 2 in the chat for Jashube. All right? So, man, I'm anxious to hear how that question and answer segment affected the judges and their decision. So we're about to get ready to go to the judges, man. People lighten up the comment board, right? So we're gonna go to the first judge. First judge, we're gonna go to MVP Chris Harris, man. Talk to us, family.
First of all, I just want to say hats off to both debaters for this debate. This was an excellent debate, like no doubt. This was a real good debate. And I'm going to give a quick critique. I don't want to take all day of this with this here. Jashube did exactly what he was supposed to do, as well as did DJ Sean do it exactly he was supposed to do. Jashube stuck with a biblical historical methodology, and Brother DjSeeanski went with a historical archaeological methodology. One of the many problems that are presented during these debates are the title. And this was one of those ones where the title, when DjSeeanski acquiesced to the title, he got himself in some trouble. Jashube did a great job once again at showing the biblical narrative. No matter how much I might disagree with it, once again, I'm judging according to the performance. He showed Jehu being around in the 8th century BCE. He also showed, he also made a claim about the Hebrew language with King Hosea. It is up to DjSeeanski to debunk that. He must debunk that. He just can't dismiss it. Okay, let me finish up. He just can't debunk, he just can't dismiss it and say, oh no, that's Phoenician. You have to give us the methodology on that. It's not Jashub, he's allowed to do that as the positive in this debate and say, this is Hebrew, this is Hebrew, this is Hebrew, this is Hebrew, this is Hebrew. You see what I'm saying? You have to debunk that methodically. I had it a draw, but the way your rebuttal round, DjSeeanski, was beautiful. It was a beautiful rebuttal round. But when you came into the Q&A round, you asked him some questions in which about the black obelisk stele with Jehu's name on it. And you said you saw a sun disk. He answered those questions beautifully. He said those were Assyrian artifacts, so of course they would have the sun disk on it. I mean, it was beautiful on both sides. So unfortunately, I have to give this debate because when he went to that King's list, that was never refuted. And we know Israel as 12 tribes, according to the biblical narrative, came out together before they were separated after Solomon. And he showed that that is the Israel King's list, according to Israel Finkelstein. I have to go with him, and I'm gonna go with him barely on this one because I gave it three. I went 3-2 on this one because I always go according to the round. So I went 3-2. So I'm gonna go with Scholastic Bully on this one. 3-2. I'm just gonna ask to cut down on the ad hominems a little bit because I can sometimes ruin your scholarship. Sean, you did a great job. Unfortunately, that last presentation that you said you missed probably hurt you in this debate. So I have to go with Jashub only because the King's list wasn't refuted. So with that being said, there's my vote. Good job on both of you all, and I hope the entire audience won and listening to this one, Black Men. So peace.
Yo. All right, man. So the first vote goes to Brother Jashub. There's a lot of things I seen too, Chris, man, in this too. You know, a lot of things that that really impressed me on both sides, man. And you know, both these brothers came in here swinging, man. So next person, G-Con,
Yes, sir.
man, send me your vote, man. What you doing? Sleeping over there?
I sent you your. I sent it to the chat. Where you want me to send it to?
Oh, my
My
bad.
vote is right. My vote right here in the chat,
Oh,
and it says private chat. You see it right there.
I'm trying to see what in the
It says private
messages.
chat.
Oh, the private chat. No, brother. I'm sure
Okay, where
better
you
on
want me to send it
messages.
to?
It's all good. All right.
You see?
So come on, G-Con, talk to us, family.
All right, cool. So like I say, I both brothers did a great job. I think that Yashub started off, upon what culture is, dealing with language, you know what I'm saying? The socialness of it. And he started off with that King's list, and that was to establish, first of all, a people, and then he established a language. He also established art. So he did pretty good with that. And then he used extra biblical sources, Finkelstein being one of them, outside sources of the biblical text, with also lining up with the biblical text just as well. So I think he did an excellent job with the brother Sean. I mean DJ. What he did was he went to the Armana letters. It seemed like he was more so building a case of a conspiracy rather than looking at the actual evidence that we see. Because even when the brother Yeshua brought out evidence of, and he brought out the Misha Stella. Can you guys hear me? He brought out the.
Yeah, we can
Can
hear
y'all
you.
hear me?
Yeah.
Hold on for a minute, because somebody tried to call me at the same time. Okay. What about now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So he brought out the Misha Stella. He brought out also the Black Obelisk. The King list actually identified Israel as the people. He brought out the Maripatai Stella, and so only thing that the brother tried to refute was these are things that they have problems, and so it was more so like he was building a conspiracy case rather than looking at the actual evidence and what scholars actually say, and Yeshua brought out a lot of archaeology. So with me personally, I took it and I went with more so Yashub in this case. And also one of the critiques I wanted to say was to far as with one of the judges, which is Chris. Christopher Harris was he brought nothing but actually extra biblical sources, even people who don't even really believe in the biblical text. So I would have to disagree on your approach on what he brought out. But otherwise than that, I got you shoot for the win.
All right, we got Yashube. All right, family. The last judge, D Red, blue collar scholar, talk to us, family.
Oh man, what it do, baby? Hey man, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, baby. Shoot one, man. I mean, it was a situation where I asked about Buddy because I was trying to figure out was it the dude I knew about, you know what I'm saying, that was critiquing this Russian dude and all kind of other little shit stuff, and was accused of anti-Semitism and all kind of other, he had a whole bunch of other accusations. So I was just trying to see if it was the same dude, but I'm not sure. You know what I'm saying? But I think this should be a lesson to everybody that want to get out into the debate circuit. You can't formulate your whole theory off one book. And it seemed like the brother just brought one book. And I asked his credentials because for you to lean that heavily on one book, that his credentials have got to be off the charts. You see what I'm saying? To the point where he sets the standard in that field. So you can't. So when I asked the brother basically he just was a historian. That's cool, but when you talk about you can't talk about strata and things of that nature, and he not be a geologist or archaeologist. You can't talk about strata dating without him being an expert in the field to critique experts in the field. Because an archaeologist is an expert in the field of topography, geography,
Right.
things of that nature. So you can't use a historian to critique an expert in the field. You see what I'm saying? You just it's those things. This is what are called vetting sources. You see what I'm saying? And I caution any young brother or sister that's listening, that's trying to get off into the debate circuit, to lean heavily on one dang on book. Never do that, because if you do, you're gonna lose. Because you got to have other PhDs and experts in the field to corroborate the theoretical or the theoretical stance or hypothesis that this particular individual is coming with. Because when it comes to archaeology and things of that nature, it's all about the interpretation of the data, right? So that's the reason why if you read the book where Israel Finkelstein was debating Amar Hamazai, they were debating the interpretation of the data, right? So you can't lean. That's why. But Jashube did a good job in the fact of using a biblical minimalist to actually make his point, and that was the actual beauty of what he actually did. He used a person that's going to take the lowest chronology and roll with that because he's a minimalist, and he used that as his foundation to, you know what I'm saying, to make his point. And I thought that was actually genius. Then he started showing artifacts, and it pretty much went downhill from there because again, dude was leaning so heavily on one book, and that one book does not make it definitive. And this is what I've been trying to argue and caution my brothers like Kyle and my big head ass brother Garfield about leaning so heavily on someone one school of thought's hypothesis and try to make that the definitive. You can't do that. You just can't do that. It's not even good scholastically. It's not. That's just not a good thing to do. So Jashube won. I ain't gonna hold y'all up, but that's to me. I didn't even have it close. It was pretty much a wash from me because he never gave nothing different, but did various quotes from the same book, and the dude was not even an expert in the field. So. That's it.
All right, man. Right. So look, DjSeeanski, man, I appreciate you, brother, and I hope you stick around, man.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No
You know what
doubt.
I'm saying? So we can keep hammering out these discussions, man, because I believe that they're beneficial to the people on whatever side you're on. You understand? Because now you get to challenge your information. The things you're standing on is able to be challenged, and you're able to become sharper because of it, man. You understand? So everybody's watching. At the end of the day, we just regular dudes, man. You know what I mean? Taking our time to look at this information, and it's important to us, man. And it's an exciting thing because these things get to clash it out, man. So you know, congratulations, man, Jashube, right? DJ.
Can I bring up something to your memory, brother? We had a wager. That was a wager.
Oh yeah.
The brother said if I beat him, he'll return to the Israelite coach.
Hell no.
That's what you said, brother.
Hell,
No, bro.
wait a minute.
No.
Hell,
You reneging? You too
hell
light skinned
no.
to renege, man. Don't do that.
Because listen,
Don't do that, man.
listen,
You
I'm
did say
gonna
that,
talk
brother.
for a second.
You did say that, brother.
I'm gonna talk for a second. What I did, and I have 3 volumes of that book. There's 900 pages to the book. So what this both sides of the argument are in the book that I was actually using. So I tried to literally move it over and just highlight some things. So you did a good job, Jashube, of presenting the same argument that's in the book that I have. I was just presenting the other side of it. Unfortunately, again, I screwed up the last round. Professor Heisen, I'm going to say again, is a historian, but he hires and consults archaeologists and geologists that agree with him. I didn't bring any of that out. He is not a geologist or an archaeologist.
Man, you screwed up the
yeah.
whole. You screwed up all around.
So again, that's 900 pages of a book. There's 900 pages to it.
Shansky, that doesn't win a debate.
I know that's 900.
Knowing that you have a
My
900-page book.
people are going to see this video and they're going to be like, well, he just presented the mainstream side of it, which everybody already knows.
Okay, that's an opinion. You still lost.
Listen, I didn't do a good enough job. Listen.
Hey, hold on real quick. Chauncey, real quick. One more time. It comes down, in a debate like this, it comes down to a title because it was Hebrew culture.
Yeah.
A lot of your presentation was based around archaeological strata. And that's what I was noticing. And I would have taken the same approach. I would never deal with Hebrew culture. I just wouldn't do that. I wouldn't acquiesce to that title. You see what I'm saying? A lot of things Jashube brought forth. I'm not going to say nothing right now. It went over your head, and I was just all like, I was looking for a challenge in some of it, but it just didn't happen. So, I mean, it was a great debate on both sides. I think that third round really messed you up because you weren't really ready to counter punch a lot of the things he brought forth. You know what I'm saying? So that's all.
It was really.
Hey, Chris, this is his idea. The title is his idea.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again, please just be talking. I don't still believe what you presented. I don't believe the dates. I still believe, and again, that they're applying erroneous biblical dates to the archaeology. That's all I was trying to say. Maybe I didn't prove it.
That doesn't win a debate.
No, that's cool. I didn't prove it.
Just because you don't believe something.
Yeah, when I say believe it, when I say believe it, meaning I still feel that I have sufficient evidence that everything you said isn't true, that it's based on erroneous dating. So the big elephant in the room is. So wait. What the big elephant in the room is, one author, if you will, is saying that the strata doesn't exist, and then you have other archaeologists saying it does exist. So that's a heck of an argument. You know what I'm saying? That's one heck of an argument right there. And Professor Heisen does present these papers, and all that scholars do is do what you did. They present exactly what you did. And he was like, well, let's deal specifically with the strata, and they won't do it. They won't do it.
Can I ask you a question, DJ?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, man. So look, if we are searching for a people and we have access to some of their cultural practices, right? And then we go into a civilization, right? And we look for evidence of these particular practices. When you say that they're just choosing dating, when you say that,
right.
You have to take in consideration if they're going into and doing archaeology in the area, and you see behavioral practices and patterns in a community. Does that identify the community?
I would say it should identify the community without the Bible as your trace back. You should have it in the community. You have the so you have a historical so you have a historical document. You have an historical document that says all those things. I agree with there's a historical document, but the document itself isn't the evidence. The evidence should be overwhelming within the culture, not the document.
It is overwhelming.
That was my only argument. The document's later. The
what's wrong
document's
with
later.
this guy?
The document is written later. You're using the document as you're excavating and saying, this document says this, so that's it right there. The other cultures, it didn't happen that way. They were dug up.
Analysis.
They were dug up. They were dug up, and the culture was figured out at that point.
No. You use that same method in ancient Egyptian. Hold on, they used that with the Egyptians because what was it? What's the Egyptian name? Was it Imhotep? Which one was it, man? Help me out, D-Red. Was it Imhotep? Which one they didn't have any archaeological evidence for? They only had writing, and they found a foot stele of his name, and it was this is what they were talking about.
Even for somebody like me,
DjSeeanski.
Me personally, that's still something debatable. You know what I'm saying?
How is it?
Hold on. It's still something debatable.
Now you just being too religious on this.
That the man existed. You want to say that, but all the exploits is from a historical document. We'd have to take a closer look at the document to really nail it. But I'm saying is we have a book that has the documentation of the people, and then we go to the culture and say, "Yup, this proves it all right here."
No, we do have papyrus. We do have papyrus. Hold on, bro, because you're being disingenuous right now. We have papyrus that are like 1,600 years older than the existence of the people that's mentioned in the papyrus and the culture that's mentioned in the papyrus. Then they do archaeological digs and say, "Oh, this is what they were talking about." Bro, that's common.
Again, that's the problem. I'm still saying the document, historical document. It's the same thing as saying archaeology. It's the same thing as saying
you're going against the whole field.
Is Sally Hemings an illegitimate child of Thomas Jefferson? Somebody says yes, somebody says no. From historical documents, the only way we can figure it out is through DNA tests.
No, that's hogwash point of view.
That's not a hogwash point.
Yeah, it is because
in a debate, that's hearsay.
Right.
That it has to be disproven in a debate. You get what I'm saying? If I'm just saying, Jashube,
all I'm saying is this. And again, you pull up archaeology. This is dated to this century right here. How? Again, you said strata. So again, that's the bigger part of the argument. How much windblown material?
But strata is not synonymous with culture.
It's still you can use the strata with the windblown materials in between to approximate. Was there 1,000 years between these two cultures? The strata says yes. Maybe was there 1,000 years between this period of time and that period of time? If there's nothing in between, the strata says no. That's what the book I have is accusing the archaeologists of doing. I didn't hammer it down. I didn't hammer it down the way I should have.
Let me ask this, man.
I didn't hammer it down the way I should have. They're saying that they're being disingenuous. They're saying that the archaeologists, Petrie and those guys back in the day, were sticking with the fundamentalist chronology, regardless if the evidence conflicted with it. There's a lot.
This is what I was trying to say. So I think it is the same. Heinshon, I think it's HEINSHON, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That guy, his scholarship is old, brother. Like he was one of the first people to try to disprove a lot of those guys back in the day. He's, I guess you could say, one of the first minimalists, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
That. You see what I'm saying? But you gotta. That's what you gotta update your scholarship. You can't lean on because he was battling some Russian dude and saying that the Russian dude was a fundamentalist and all kind of other stuff. So, but now scholarship has improved, and so now you got people like it. This is why I said Jashube did a great job of using somebody like Finkelstein, who is a minimalist, who don't believe in the Bible. Right. He says he only deals with his people on Passover and things of that nature because it's just tradition. But he don't believe none of the stuff happened, none of it. So when you know a person like Finkelstein's backdrop, for you to say that these people, you're superimposing Heinshon's argument with Petrie and those cats, they're trying to superimpose that argument on Finkelstein, Faust, Mazai, and these other guys. You see what I'm saying? It don't really work. So that's why I say you would have to update your scholars, because even Finkelstein agreed with his chronology when Finkelstein first came out. He agreed with Hindsohn's chronology initially, but then he had to once he looked at the and started doing those digs, he started realizing he had to come back and revise his chronology. So this is why I say you got to update your information and always step on top of it, because if you don't, you'll be regurgitating outdated information. I just had to kind of have
Yeah, and I think that's
Garfield on
cool.
that
That's cool.
because Garfield was talking about
Yeah, that's cool.
his Finkelstein's new book about the Hasmoneans, and I was telling him, he was like, "You got to read this new book. You got to step on scholarship." I said that book is based on articles that he wrote in 2008. That book is not new. But I'm saying that book is old. The stuff in that book is old. The book just came out in book form in 2018, but the actual writing started in 2008. So the book is
Yeah, but
old.
are we really getting any more data? I mean, because I want to keep the whole thing 50-50 here. Are we getting any more data saying that Israel was this lively, flourishing community or kingdom that ruled from the Nile all the way to the Euphrates? Do we see that anywhere in history?
We
Is there
do.
any consensus
There,
that
there's
yes,
there's
that is
even
true?
new archaeological digs like in 2017, 2018. I didn't even get to bring that up of direct material culture um, throughout the Levant and known Israelite sites. So they're still digging up new information and getting new data even to this day. But to answer your question directly, can we show a continuation all the way into Egypt? That
No,
might
no, no,
be.
no. Can we show a kingdom? Because David, in the biblical narrative, it says David ruled from the river Egypt all the way to the Euphrates. And what I'm trying to sit up there and say is, can we find that anywhere? You see what I'm saying? If we're talking about a lot of things that are absolute, well, let me not get involved because I want to stay my place in the
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
judges
yeah,
and the
no.
yeah.
judges.
It's
I
a
don't
good
want
It's
to get
conversation.
involved.
That's a
we
good
just talking now.
conversation.
We just talking
Listen,
now because like even right now, yeah, hasn't changed some things around over the years, but they're still debating this stuff in real time, and I get to get privy information. So I'm reading this stuff, and it's just not the Hebrew culture. It's the whole Near Eastern culture. It's Rome. It's Europe, and man, I've seen some 60-page rebuts. Like damn, you know what I'm saying? I'm reading this stuff, and I'm just like, sheesh. The argument still goes on, whether or not people
hey,
decide to choose this side or that side. The argument still goes on and on and on, and it's still a good argument. Still a
hey,
good
man, let
argument to
me.
me.
I want to ask you
I think
something.
it's a horrible argument to go against established archaeology to
See,
try
that's
to
the
create
thing.
a counter
I'm
argument.
anti-establishment. You know what I'm saying?
I could
Hey, hold
tell.
on.
I'm
I'm
an absolute.
I'm
I'm an absolutist.
anti-establishment.
If it's not absolute, I don't
Yeah.
believe it. You know what I'm saying? And like I said earlier, said a lot of the conversations that we have pertaining to it, sometimes it's got to be the argument has got to be better. You see what I'm saying? Because once all James got to do is say, "Whoop, Hebrew culture," he can make a claim on anything in a debate like this, right? But you got to be able to debunk it. I can't sit up here and say, "Well, I know he wrong right there, so he wrong and you're right." You have to debunk that. That's my whole stance,
Yeah.
and I know
Let,
some
let
of
me
y'all
let me
like,
let me say this. Hold up, hold up.
yeah,
Let me say this, man. When you're looking at when you're looking at archaeology in the area that you're in, and hold up. Let me address you first, Chris Harris. First of all,
right,
nowhere in the scriptures do it say that King David, that was a prophet, that was a future prophecy concerning King David. During
okay.
King David's time, he didn't rule an empire like that. It wasn't that big. King
Did you
David.
say he ruled all the way to the Euphrates?
No, yeah, that's what I'm. No, he didn't rule all the way to no Euphrates, man. No, you had the damn Philistines that were still right there at that time. You had the Moabites that were still there. Like they ruled them too. Are you saying he ruled them?
Well, hold on. I could have swore it said that.
No, that was talking about in a future sense concerning David. It wasn't saying that David ruled from that. So if we're going back to look to find for a kingdom that David ruled from the Nile River to the Euphrates, you ain't gonna find that, brother. He didn't rule. His kingdom wasn't that big, bro.
Okay.
You understand? So on the brother Shansky, if you have four kingdoms right here, all in the same region, four kingdoms, and three out of the four kingdoms, you see pig remains, right? Evidence of the brother was bringing out as far as the evidence of them eating pigs in the region, in the city, in the areas of these kingdoms. But then this one kingdom, they don't have that. That don't mean nothing about me, because you said you don't care about that. But I'm saying,
Yeah, I mean, no, pig bones is still, to me, I mean, that's part of the Judaic law. And because there isn't pig bones, to me, doesn't prove that that culture was there. That's part of the law, but to me, that's a real big reach.
That's a
then you have to
hell of a
have
reach.
answers.
That makes
Hold
no
on,
That's
sense.
a hell
hold
of
on,
a reach to me, man. There's
hold
no
on.
pig
Then you
bones
have
there.
to-
So then we
hold
have to. So then there should be pig bones everywhere else of the
No,
people.
it's more complex. It's more complex than that. It's the pig
Yeah.
bones. It's the 4-room houses. It's the
That's-
altars with the
no,
slopes. Did you
no.
hold on? Wait a minute.
Good.
Yes, it is. It's got all those elements in it. That was my
Hold on,
Okay,
argument.
yeah,
real quick,
okay,
but you
just
can
shoot.
hold on instead of arguing,
Yeah,
y'all.
we just talking. I don't think we
Real
argue.
quick, Herodotus will tell you also in the books of Herodotus is that the Egyptians didn't eat pigs. He'll also tell you that they sacrificed and had temples with 4 walls in it. They'll also tell you that the Canaanites, if you look in history, had similar temples. I'm not here to dispute that with Jashube, but that's something that if you would have just been like my man D Red said, not reading from one book, you would have been able to easily debunk that using other sources or challenge that.
Right, and it's hard. Now, look, Chris, it's hard too because like I never seen Jashube debate. I ain't gonna front because I ain't got a lot of time for that stuff.
Hey,
Yeah, like so he put a good presentation together, and it was pretty much what I expected. But what I was trying to do was do my own thing and essentially start at the 7th century and then just ease backwards and say, okay, if we're at the 7th century and we have fragments going forward into Hellenistic times, then we should easily be able to find again Saul,
Hey, Sean, man,
David.
I think it's just that preparation, man. I think.
Yeah, I wanted to go right back to because look, I mean, again, those books. I wrote a paper from those 3 books, but it had to do with geology. I was going to present that paper. It was about geology. It had nothing to do essentially with the content. It was more about the geological features of different regions and stuff. So again, those books. I read those books like 5-6 years ago, about 5 years ago, I guess. And
but let me ask, I
still think it's a great argument. I still think it's a great argument because then it's so complex then because again, I thought from what the title was, really I'm in search for Samuel, I'm in search for Daniel, I'm in search for Saul, David, and Solomon because it's right at that point.
Sean, so let me ask you, was there anything in Jashube's presentation that like you was like, whoa, okay?
No, I wasn't. Not at all. No, because it's pretty much establishment. I already know the information. So, again, I was an Israelite. I've read and researched all that same stuff. So still reading and researching, I'm like, okay, well, here's an argument right here. This argument is saying contrary to the dating system of what we have for the fundamental dates. And Finkelstein, because he was in the book too, he doesn't really go too far off that beaten path. It's still all very close. So I'm like, well, in the books it does show, which was my 3rd round, how you look at the stratigraphy and how you have to be able to say, okay, if it's horizontal, there's no chronology. If it's vertical, there's a chronology, but then there has to be enough material in between to justify the dating system. I think that's the argument that Heisen is making, that the dating, you can't have like 20 feet of material here, but then in another excavation area, you have 3 feet of material there. That starts the argument like, well, how much material, and that's geology, because he hires geologists. How much windbone materials would you need to justify the chronology going outside of the 6th century or the 7th century in general? That's where the argument starts. In general, if you go backwards, then everything has to be very consistent, and he's saying it's not. And that the dates are just still establishment dates, and they're just going to be the establishment dates.
Sounds like
man. I appreciate it, man. Listen, Jashube, talk to us, family.
Man, you already know what it is. I call another body, man. 7 Gang, Scholastic Bully. Y'all know what's up. Anybody else want to come out here and show face? Same thing gonna happen.
Oh, I ain't going away, Jashube. I ain't going away, dog.
Bro, you in the do-what?
I ain't going nowhere, man.
Hey, come on, bring it.
And it's good for me because I saw how you present, and you presented a really good PowerPoint. It was still a good PowerPoint.
You right, DJ Sean, and it hurt me to send you to the do-what, but I had to.
Yeah, I know what the do-what is. I know what the do-what is, bro. Your Hebrew heaven. Ooh, did I say that? Etchemayim, fire and water. That's the doo-wop, bro. I know what the doo-wop is. The absolute. I know what that stuff is. Well, that's why I asked you about the solar wing disc. Like, yo, man, what's up with that? You know what I'm saying? That's what's up, though. Because that's another whole lane, the deities. And
you need your own show, DJ Sean. You're gonna talk us. You're gonna talk us to the next day.
But look, y'all had me hyped up last week, and I was drinking, so I couldn't even drink yet today, man. Come on, Jashube. Y'all, now you know what I'm saying?
You gotta get that. You gotta get that tequila 1800 in you, man. That's my secret sauce.
I'm gonna be passed the hell out.
We're not promoting tequila on whatever you just said. All right. So
oh, come on, man. Y'all on that brown. See, that's racist right there. This brother
you damn right. Okay. Yeah, and I ain't ashamed about it. Understand?
This brother want to promote the brown. I can't promote the clear. No, I want to hear that.
Hey, that clear, that's that demon in the jar, boy.
All right, man. Let me turn on my screen real quick, man. If you guys want to support the source, right? You guys want to support the source? We do have these sourced up T-shirts, right? That you can get, man, with leather patches on them. All right, fringes or without fringes, man. Support the source, man. We're trying to keep bringing you and raise the level of our presentation, right? So support the source, man. Also, man, listen, join us on Facebook at the Source Debate League, right? At the Source Debate League on Facebook. Follow, subscribe to Y'all World 777. We appreciate the love and support, man, right? Share these videos. Why? Because I've spoken throughout this debate about we could be doing anything, but we're here doing this, looking at the information, evaluating the information, and it's entertaining and it's informative, right? Very informative. The information is coming out. So everybody's watching. If you want to get into debates, right, hit us up at the Source Debate League, right? Hit anybody else on the source that you might know and get involved and stand on what it is that you're teaching, man. Right? What is your scholarship, man? And how can you become better, right? So you can help someone else, man. So with that being said, man, we're gonna get up out of here. Hold up, man. James, where you at, dog? Where you at?
I'm right here. I'm right here, man. I just want to say, y'all, oh, no problem, man. It was a good debate, but like I say, from round one, based on what the title was, man, I just can't see it going no other way than to my brother Jashube, because he's showing evidence on top of evidence before the 7th century. So I mean, but man, it was a good debate though. The brother just need to revamp some things and come out next time real strong. And before I get up out of here, I just want to give a shout out because last night I had a debate on Did Jesus Exist on Dagger Squad, so I'd like y'all to go check that out, man.
Yeah.
Hey, let me make one more comment. Let me ask y'all something. How many people was looking at it? That's the main thing. A lot of people's tuned in. How many people was looking at the video? That's really the main thing for y'all debate league. How many people looked at the video?
We really don't know until the end of the show, man. But I will be posting something on that, man. Let you all know. You can all go back and see it because we on 3 channels, man. We on Y'all World 777, Genesis 49ers. Yo, listen, man, go subscribe to Genesis 49ers, man. You have to go back, go subscribe, and then go through the archives and look at the information that the brother Jashube is putting out there, man. Right? And the rest of these brothers, man, I don't have all of their pages, but support the information, man. Right? Let me tell you something, man. This is a very expensive hobby. Right? There's books, information, travels, all type of things going into what these brothers are doing, man. So support these brothers, man. Right? So with that being said, man.
Peace, y'all. I'm going to have a drink.
Right? Another body bag, man, for the champ. Right? Man. That's what we do here at the Source, right? So we out of here, man.
Hey, Sean, if you still listening, give me a call on Messenger. Good show tonight, guys. Good,
You're gonna have to train him up, man. Train a child
Hey
and the
man,
way
look,
they go, it
Hey
should
yo,
not depart from it. It should not.
hey look, like I felt like look, he was giving an archaeological presentation. You know what I'm